The boardroom felt smaller than usual as I watched Robert Pace give his PowerPoint presentation. He waved his hands at graphs and numbers, speaking with confidence. I had worked with him for 10 years, but I had never seen him so sure of himself, so certain he was winning. As you can see, he said, adjusting his fancy tie, this company needs strong leadership, traditional leadership, and Alice, despite her efforts, just isn't the right person for the job. My name is Alice Chen. I was 35 years old, and I was watching my brother-in-law try to take my family's company from me. Chen Manufacturing was my father's dream. He built it from nothing into a $200 million business. He passed away 3 months ago, and Robert clearly thought that meant I was weak. I looked around the room. Most board members kept their faces blank. Years in business had taught them how to hide their thoughts. But a few, especially the older ones who knew my father, looked uncomfortable. Robert kept talking, clicking to the next slide. The numbers don't lie. Since Alice became interim CEO, nothing has changed. No new ideas, no growth, just living off her dad's success. The way he said dad made my jaw tighten. Robert had been married to my sister Karen for 15 years, but somehow he thought that made him more important to my father than I was. He pointed to a chart with a downward trend. The Asian market is a big problem. No expansion, no new deals, just the same contracts Dad made years ago. I almost smiled. Robert only focused on what was right in front of him. He never looked deeper. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick message to my assistant, Maya. Time to move forward. Start the sequence. Her reply came instantly. Everything's in place. They won't know what hit them. I put my phone away and turned back to Robert. He was talking about his big plans, expanding aggressively, buying smaller companies, changing the leadership team. The board needs to be realistic, he said. Chen Manufacturing needs someone strong. Someone who understands business today. Someone like me. Silence filled the room. Then Thomas Wong, my father's old friend and the longest-serving board member, spoke. That was quite a presentation, Robert, very ambitious. He turned to me. Alice, would you like to respond? I stood up slowly, smoothing my skirt. Actually, I have a presentation of my own. Please check the tablets in front of you. Robert frowned. He hadn't noticed them being placed there during his speech. This isn't on the agenda. Oh, but it is, I said smoothly. In fact, I've been planning this for a long time. The board members picked up their tablets. The screens showed carefully organized documents, contracts, financial records, partnership agreements. What you're looking at, I explained, is the result of 10 years of expansion into the Asian market, not through risky takeovers, but through smart long-term partnerships. I walked to the front, clicking through slides on the big screen. While Robert was focused on public deals, I was building something stronger, a network of small but important manufacturing partners in Asia. And as of this morning, all of them are officially part of Chen Manufacturing. Robert's face turned pale. That's impossible, he stuttered. I oversee all acquisitions. You oversee public acquisitions, I corrected. These were different. Each deal was made as a joint venture under separate holding companies. Until today, they looked like independent businesses. I pulled up a map showing dozens of new locations now linked to us. Together, these partnerships bring in $300 million a year. They've been growing quietly while you were busy planning your takeover. The board members scrolled through their tablets, murmuring as they realized what this meant. Robert sat frozen, his perfect plan falling apart. But your father, he started. My father, I said calmly, taught me that the loudest person in the room isn't always the smartest. He taught me to plan carefully and always think ahead. I clicked to the next slide, showing a photo that made Robert's face go gray. It was from 10 years ago, my father and me in Singapore, signing the first of many partnership deals. He didn't just know about this strategy, I said. He helped me create it. While you were busy trying to impress him with presentations, he and I were building the real future of Chen Manufacturing. Robert's hands shook as he flipped through the documents, realizing he had already lost. These contracts, they can't be legal. The board never approved. Robert protested. Actually, Thomas Wong interrupted. We did. Each of these partnerships was presented separately over the years, and they all seemed small at the time. But the board approved every single one. He glanced at me with a proud smile. Quite a clever strategy, wouldn't you say? I pulled up another document on the screen showing our new market position. With these partnerships now fully part of Chen Manufacturing, we're not just competing in the Asian market, we're leading it. Our production capacity has tripled, our supply chain is 200% more efficient, and our market reach has grown faster than ever. The board members leaned in, now fully paying attention. Even those who had seemed to support Robert before were looking at the numbers with interest. But the costs, Robert tried again. The costs were minimal, I said, switching to the financial slides. Each partnership was built through profit sharing and gradual investments. We never took on big debts or gave up company shares. In fact, I highlighted a key figure on the screen. A few board members gasped. We now have more cash reserves than at any point in company history. Robert slumped in his chair. His plan to take over was falling apart. But I wasn't finished. There's one more thing, I said. Maya entered the room, handing out folders to the board members. These documents outline a new deal, one that will take Chen Manufacturing from a regional success to a global leader. As the board members opened their folders, Robert made one last attempt. You can't just surprise us with this. There are rules, procedures. Actually, Thomas interrupted again. This proposal was submitted the right way 3 months ago. You even signed off on it, Robert, though I doubt you read past the first page. It looked like a small equipment upgrade for our Kuala Lumpur factory. I pulled up the full proposal on the screen. In reality, it's the key to a major partnership with Takashi Industries in Japan. They've been searching for a manufacturing partner with exactly our skills and network. The boardroom filled with murmurs. Takashi Industries was one of the biggest tech manufacturers in Asia. This deal would put us on a whole new level. The deal is ready to close. All we need now is board approval, I said, and since the initial work was approved 3 months ago, I let my words hang in the air, watching as Robert's face filled with panic. He finally understood. While he had been plotting to take over the company, I had been executing a plan 10 years in the making. Every small decision he ignored, every partnership he dismissed, every document he signed without reading. They had all been pieces of a much bigger strategy. I moved to approve the Takashi partnership, Thomas said. Second, another voice added. Then another. One by one, hands went up in agreement. Robert sat frozen as his dream of controlling Chen Manufacturing slipped away. But I wasn't finished. There's one more matter, I said as Maya handed out another set of documents. A full audit of all of executive decisions and financial transactions from the past 5 years. Robert's face went pale. He knew what was in those documents, proof of his shady dealings. Hidden expenses, fake reports, even fraud. The board should review these carefully, I said. I believe you'll find some serious concerns that need urgent attention. Just as I expected, the fallout was swift. As the board examined the audit, Robert's entire scheme unraveled. This is unbelievable, Thomas said during a special board meeting the next day. He's been planning this takeover for years, misusing company funds, adjusting budgets for his benefit, and keeping records of it all. I added, pulling up more files. He was so sure he'd take over that he never bothered to cover his tracks properly. The board's decision was unanimous. Robert was fired immediately. His company shares were frozen while the investigation continued. That afternoon, security escorted him out of the building, his belongings in a box. From my office window, I watched him load them into his BMW. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister Karen. Is it true? Did Robert really try to steal the company? I had been dreading this conversation. Karen and I had always been close, despite Robert's efforts to drive us apart. I called her. Yes, I said when she picked up. I'm so sorry, Karen. I have proof of everything. There was silence on the other end. Then, to my surprise, she laughed. You know what's funny? I suspected something like this for years. The late nights, the secret calls, the random business trips. I thought he was cheating on me. Are you okay? I asked. Honestly, I'm relieved. I actually filed for divorce last week. Turns out he's been hiding money in offshore accounts. Now I know why. I smiled. Speaking of those accounts, you should have your lawyer call me. I have some information that might help. Because Robert thought he was clever, moving money around in secret. What he didn't realize was that his accounts had crossed paths with my business network in Asia. Every hidden transfer, every shady deal. I had it all documented. The next few months were a turning point for Chen Manufacturing. The Takashi partnership was an incredible success, opening doors we hadn't even imagined. Our stock soared as the media covered our sudden rise in the Asian market. Karen, using the financial records I provided, won her divorce case easily. With Robert out of the picture, she joined the company as our head of international relations. Her talent for negotiation helped strengthen our growing partnerships around the world. One evening, about 6 months after Robert was gone, I was working late when Thomas stopped by. "Your father would be proud," he said, taking a seat. "He always said you had a talent for seeing the bigger picture." I glanced at the photo on my desk, Dad and me in Singapore, smiling at the camera. He taught me well. "Success isn't about being the loudest or the most aggressive," he always said. "It's about being the most prepared." Thomas nodded. "Robert never understood why James spent so much time teaching you about the business. He used to complain about it in board meetings, said it was a waste of time." I laughed. Robert only saw what he wanted to see, a daughter trying to please her father. He never realized Dad was actually training me to lead. "And now look at this company." Thomas gestured to the city lights outside my window. "Your father built something great, but you've taken it to the next level." I thought about all the years I had spent expanding our reach in Asia, the long flights, late nights, and careful relationship building that Robert had ignored. "We're just getting started," I said, pulling up a new presentation on my computer. "Take a look at this." Thomas leaned in, his eyes widening. "South America? You're already planning the next expansion." "I've been planning this for 3 years," I said, showing him the groundwork I had already put in place. "Those equipment upgrades we approved last quarter, they weren't just for efficiency." As I outlined the next phase of Chen Manufacturing's growth, I could almost hear Dad's voice. "Always be 3 steps ahead, Alice. Let them think they know your plan while you're playing a different game." Robert had tried to take over our company, but in the end, his actions only pushed us forward faster. He had wanted control. He hadn't realized I was focused on something much bigger. Later that night, Karen came by with 2 cups of coffee and a knowing look. "The Singapore office just called," she said, sitting down. "They found something interesting." I smiled and grabbed a notepad. Some people thought business was all about power moves and takeovers. But Dad had taught me better. Real success wasn't loud, it was steady, strategic, built step by step. Robert had wanted to be CEO. I was building a legacy, and this was just the beginning. The next morning, as I got ready for a board meeting, I found a note in my father's old desk drawer. "Remember, Alice, the best moves are the ones they never see coming. Not because you hid them, but because they weren't paying attention." I pinned it to my bulletin board right next to our latest growth projections. Chen Manufacturing wasn't just surviving. It was thriving in ways Robert could never have imagined. Because while he had been focused on taking over, I had been focused on the future. That's the thing about real vision. It doesn't need to announce itself. It just unfolds, one step at a time. And by the time people notice, the game has already changed.
The crystal champagne flute trembled in my hand as I stared at the elaborate place settings around our family's mahogany dining table. Tonight wasn't just another lavish dinner party. It was my execution. I'm Pearl, and at 29, I was about to disappoint my family in the worst possible way. "Leonard is a catch, darling," my mother whispered urgently, adjusting my designer dress sleeve. "He's offering stability, connections, everything we've worked for. Don't mess this up." The man in question sat across from me, his expensive watch glinting as he raised his glass. At 58, Leonard was successful, wealthy, and completely wrong for me. But that didn't matter to my family. All they saw were dollar signs and social climbing opportunities. "To new beginnings," Leonard announced, his practiced smile never reaching his eyes. Everyone clinked glasses while I fought the urge to bolt from the room. My younger brother Levi caught my eye from across the table, his expression sympathetic. He knew what was coming. We'd talked about it last week when I'd finally broken down and told him about Daniel. "Pearl has been reviewing the merger proposal," my mother announced proudly. "Haven't you, dear?" I set down my glass. "Actually, I need to say something." The room fell silent. Even the servants stopped their quiet movements around the table. "I'm not going to marry Leonard," I said firmly. "I'm seeing someone else. Someone I actually love. My mother's face turned white. What did you just say? His name is Daniel. He's an inventor working on sustainable technology solutions. We've been dating for 6 months. Leonard's smile vanished. Vanessa, I thought this was settled. It is settled, my mother snapped. Pearl is just having a moment of cold feet. Aren't you, darling? No, Mother, I'm not having cold feet. I'm making a choice. My choice. My father slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. Do you have any idea what you're throwing away? Leonard's company could secure our family's future for generations. I don't care about his company, I shot back. I care about living my own life, not the one you've scripted for me. That inventor of yours, my mother sneered. What can he offer? A cramped apartment and dreams? He offers me respect, love, the chance to build something meaningful together. Levi spoke up quietly. Maybe we should listen to what Pearl wants. Stay out of this, our mother barked. Leonard stood, straightening his tie. I think I should leave. Clearly there's been a misunderstanding. Leonard, please, my mother begged. She doesn't mean it. I do mean it, I insisted. I'm sorry if this embarrasses you, but I won't marry someone I don't love. My father's voice turned deadly quiet. Then you leave us no choice. Either you honor this arrangement, or you're no longer part of this family. The words hit like a physical blow, but I'd expected them. Still, hearing them out loud made my chest tight. You're choosing some penniless inventor over your family? My mother demanded. I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. No, I'm choosing myself. If you walk out that door, my father warned, don't expect to come back. No more access to family funds, no connections, nothing. Levi half rose from his chair. Dad, this is crazy. Sit down, our father thundered. I looked around the table one last time, at the crystal, the silver, the artificial smiles and hollow promises. All of it suddenly seemed so meaningless. I'll have my things out by tomorrow, I said quietly. My mother's face crumpled. Pearl, please, think about what you're doing. I have thought about it. For the first time in my life, I'm thinking clearly. I walked to the door, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Behind me, I could hear my mother's soft sobs, Leonard's awkward attempts at comfort, my father's angry muttering. Just before I left, Levi caught up with me in the foyer. Pearl, wait. I turned, fighting back tears. Here, he pressed a small key into my hand. To my apartment, in case you need somewhere to stay. I hugged him fiercely. Thank you. They'll come around, he whispered. They have to. But we both knew that wasn't true. The Santiagos never came around. They only moved forward, crushing whatever stood in their way. As I stepped out into the cool night air, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. How did it go? I took one last look at the mansion behind me, at the life I was leaving behind. Then I typed back, I'm free, coming to you now. My hands were steady as I got into my car. The trembling was gone, replaced by something stronger, certainty. I might have just lost my family, but I'd found myself. And that was worth more than all the arranged marriages and business mergers in the world. You can't fit all these books in my spare room, Daniel laughed, watching me unpack my 10th box of architecture texts. We'll need to get creative with storage. It had been 3 days since I'd walked out of my family's mansion. 3 days of ignored calls from my mother, stern emails from family lawyers, and a crushing silence from my father. I can donate some, I offered, though the thought made my chest tight. These books represented years of study, dreams I wasn't ready to let go of yet. Daniel crossed the room and wrapped his arms around me from behind. No way, we'll make space. Harrison's coming over later. He's great at solving puzzles like this. The mention of Daniel's older brother made me smile. Harrison had welcomed me without question, treating me like family from the moment we met. It was so different from what I'd grown up with. My phone buzzed, Ellie's face lighting up the screen. My best friend had been my rock through all of this. Pearl, are you sitting down? Her lawyer voice was in full effect. What's wrong? They've frozen your accounts, all of them. Even your personal savings. The room spun slightly. I gripped the edge of Daniel's desk. They can't do that. That's my money. I earned it working at the firm. Technically, the accounts were under your father's business umbrella. I'm looking for loopholes, but... Daniel took one look at my face and guided me to sit on the bed. What's happening? They're trying to starve me out, I whispered. Make me come crawling back. Like hell they are, he said firmly. We'll figure this out. Ellie was still talking. I've started the paperwork to establish your independent accounts, but Pearl, there's more. They're claiming you stole proprietary information before leaving. What? I shot to my feet. I didn't take anything. I know that, but they're building a case. They want to scare you. Daniel's face darkened. This is harassment. It's family, I corrected bitterly. Santiago style. A knock at the door made us all jump. Harrison's voice called out, "Brought pizza and moving supplies." Daniel let him in while I finished my call with Ellie. Harrison took one look at my face and set down the pizza boxes. Okay, what did they do now? I explained the situation while Daniel paced the small apartment, his inventor's mind clearly working overtime. They can't just take everything from you, Harrison said, his business acumen kicking in. There have to be legal protections. My family has very good lawyers, I said quietly, and they're not above playing dirty. Then we play smarter, Daniel suddenly announced. Pearl, remember that sustainable housing project you showed me? The one your firm rejected? I nodded. It had been my passion project, designs for affordable, eco-friendly homes that could revolutionize urban living. What if we built it? Not just one building, but a whole new company. Your designs, my solar technology. Harrison's eyes lit up. You know, with the right investors, and that could work. The market's hungry for green innovation. I don't have any startup capital, I reminded them. They made sure of that. But you have us, Daniel said firmly. And I've been saving everything from my patent royalties. My phone buzzed again. A text from Levi. Mum's on the warpath. Dad's talking about legal action. Be careful. Harrison read the message over my shoulder and snorted. They're scared. You're the golden child who got away, and now they're throwing everything they have at breaking you. I won't break, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. I can't go back to being their puppet. Daniel pulled out his laptop. Then let's build something they can't touch, something that's purely ours. For the next few hours, we spread papers across the floor, eating cold pizza while sketching out business plans. Harrison made calls to potential investors he knew. Daniel explained how his solar panel innovations could integrate with my housing designs. Around midnight, exhausted but hopeful, I stepped onto Daniel's small balcony for air. The city lights twinkled below, so different from the manicured view from my old bedroom. Having second thoughts? Daniel joined me, offering a cup of tea. No, I said, realizing it was true. For the first time, I'm having first thoughts. My own thoughts. He smiled, that warm, genuine smile that had first drawn me to him. You know this won't be easy, right? We'll be starting from scratch. Good, I said firmly. Everything worthwhile I've ever had, I built myself. Why should this be different? My phone buzzed one last time. My mother. Don't throw away everything we've given you. Come home. We can fix this. I showed Daniel the message, then deleted it without responding. The old Pearl might have wavered, might have given in to keep the peace. But I wasn't that Pearl anymore. They'd tried to break me by taking everything away. Instead, they'd set me free. And I was going to build something so amazing they'd regret ever doubting me. Daniel squeezed my hand. Ready to change the world? I squeezed back. Ready to build our own? And these solar panels integrate directly into the building's facade. The investor leaned forward, studying our prototype designs. 6 months had passed since that night on Daniel's balcony, and we were finally getting traction. They're practically invisible, Daniel explained, pulling up the technical specifications. But they generate 40% more power than traditional panels, even in low-light conditions. I jumped in, pointing to my architectural renderings. The entire building works as a single ecosystem. Solar power, rainwater harvesting, vertical gardens. It's completely self-sustainable. The investor, Ms. Roberts, tapped her pen against her notepad. And you've tested this technology? We have a working prototype on our garage, Harrison chimed in. 3 months of data showing consistent results. The meeting room fell silent as Ms. Roberts reviewed our numbers. My heart pounded. This was our 5th investor pitch this month, and we desperately needed funding to scale up. It's ambitious, she finally said. Maybe too ambitious. My stomach dropped, but Daniel wasn't giving up. Come see it in action. We can demonstrate everything today. She checked her watch. I have another meeting in 2 hours. That's all we need, I promised. 20 minutes later, we were pulling up to our makeshift workshop, a converted garage Harrison had helped us lease. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Sorry about the mess, I apologized, leading Ms. Roberts past workbenches covered in blueprints and circuit boards. Mess means work gets done, she replied, surprising me with a smile. Show me what you've got. Daniel activated the prototype system, and the monitoring screens lit up. Watch this. For the next hour, we demonstrated every aspect of our integrated system. Ms. Roberts asked sharp questions, tested scenarios, and took detailed notes. The market potential is enormous, Harrison explained, while Daniel showed her the power generation data, especially with new environmental regulations coming. And your competition? She asked. I tensed, knowing what she meant. My family's real estate firm was still a major player in sustainable development, even if their approach was more about PR than actual innovation. We're offering something completely different, I said firmly. True sustainability, not just greenwashing. Ms. Roberts nodded slowly, then pulled out her phone. Cancel my next meeting, she told her assistant, and get me the paperwork for a Series A investment. Daniel grabbed my hand under the table as she named a figure that made my head spin. Under one condition, she added. I want this scaled up and ready to showcase at the Green Innovation Expo in 3 months. 3 months? Harrison whistled. That's tight. It's doable, Daniel said confidently. We've done the hard part. Now it's just about scaling. Then we have a deal? Ms. Roberts stood, extending her hand. I shook it firmly. Deal. After she left, the 3 of us stood in stunned silence before erupting into cheers. Daniel picked me up and spun me around while Harrison started calling contractors. We did it, I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in months. We actually did it. My phone buzzed, Ellie's name flashing on the screen. Please tell me that was good news about the investment, she said when I answered. Better than good. We're funded. How are things on your end? Your family's lawyers finally backed off on the theft accusations. They couldn't make anything stick. Of course they couldn't, I said, watching Daniel and Harrison argue playfully over expansion plans. Because we're building something completely new. Speaking of building, Ellie's voice turned serious. You should know your mother's firm just announced their own sustainable housing initiative. My celebration high-dimmed slightly. Let me guess. They're calling it revolutionary. They're calling it exactly what you proposed to them 2 years ago, except their version is all surface, no substance. I should have been angry, but instead I felt oddly calm. Let them try. We'll show them how it's really done. After hanging up, I joined Daniel and Harrison at the planning table. We need to think bigger, I announced. The expo isn't just about showing our technology. It's about showing everyone what's possible. You're thinking about your family's announcement? Harrison asked knowingly. I'm thinking about proving them wrong, I corrected. About everything. Daniel spread out fresh blueprints. Then let's make it impossible to ignore. Full-scale model unit, live demonstrations, the works. We worked late into the night, planning and dreaming. Around midnight, Harrison headed home, leaving Daniel and me surrounded by papers and possibilities. You okay? Daniel asked softly. With all of this? I looked around our workshop, at the prototype we'd built from scratch, the designs we'd refined together, the future we were creating. I'm better than okay, I said. For the first time, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. He kissed me softly. Then let's show the world what we can do. I glanced at my phone one last time before turning it off. There was a news alert about my mother's company, featuring her proud announcement of their Groundbreaking sustainable initiative. Oh, mother, I whispered. You have no idea what's coming. Turn on the business news now. Ellie's voice crackled through my phone speaker. I fumbled for the remote, nearly spilling my morning coffee. The headline scrolling across the screen made me freeze. Major real estate firm faces investor exodus over false green claims. Your mother's company is in free fall, Ellie explained. Their sustainable housing initiative? Complete smoke and mirrors. Someone leaked internal documents showing they were just painting regular buildings green and calling it eco-friendly. I sank onto the couch, watching footage of my mother leaving her office building, surrounded by reporters. She looked smaller somehow, her designer suit not quite as crisp as usual. Pearl? Daniel emerged from our home office, concern etched on his face. You need to see this email. He handed me his laptop. The message was from one of my mother's biggest clients, now requesting a meeting with us. They're jumping ship, I whispered. All of them. My phone buzzed again, Levi this time. Mum's losing it, he texted. Dad's talking about selling assets. It's bad, Pearl. Daniel sat beside me, his hand warm on my shoulder. What do you want to do? Before I could answer, Harrison burst through our door, not bothering to knock. Have you seen the stock price? They've lost 40% in 2 hours. I saw, I said quietly. This is our chance, Harrison continued, pacing excitedly. We can grab their market share while they're down. The timing couldn't be better with the expo next week. My phone lit up with another call, my mother's number. After a year of silence, seeing it now felt surreal. Don't answer it, Harrison warned. Let them sweat. But I was already hitting accept. Hello, Mother. Pearl. Her voice was strained, none of its usual commanding tone. We need to talk. Now you want to talk? After a year of legal threats and silence? Please. The words sounded foreign coming from her. Things are complicated. They're not complicated, Mother. They're exactly what I warned you about 2 years ago when you rejected my sustainable design proposals. Remember? You said they were unrealistic and bad for business. Daniel squeezed my shoulder supportively. That was a mistake, she admitted. We're paying for it now. Yes, you are. I took a deep breath. What do you want? Your father and I, we need your help, your expertise. We can offer you a position. Stop, I cut her off. I'm not interested in a position at your company. Pearl, be reasonable. This is family. Family? I laughed bitterly. You disowned me. Remember, when I chose love over your arranged marriage plan. Harrison was frantically gesturing at me, pointing to his watch. We had a meeting with potential clients in 30 minutes. I have to go, I told my mother. I have a business to run. Wait, she started, but I ended the call. The room was silent for a moment before Harrison spoke. You know they're desperate when they start playing the family card. They're not playing. Levi's voice came from the doorway. None of us had heard him arrive. It's worse than the news is reporting. Mum's lost 3 major developments. Dad's talking about bankruptcy. I stood, needing to move. Why are you here, Levi? Because I'm caught in the middle, and I'm tired of it. He looked exhausted. They're our parents, Pearl. Despite everything. They stopped being my parents the night they gave me an ultimatum, I reminded him. And now they're facing their own ultimatum, he countered. Karma's funny that way. Daniel, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. The expo's next week. Every major developer in the country will be there. Including what's left of your mother's company, Harrison added. I looked at the news footage still playing silently on the TV. My mother's face was a mask of controlled panic as reporters shouted questions about fraudulent environmental claims. Pearl, Levi pleaded, at least think about it. I have thought about it, I said slowly. For a whole year I've thought about what I'd do if they ever needed my help. And? Daniel asked softly. And I think it's time to show them exactly what they threw away. I turned to Harrison. Move up our expo presentation. I want the prime slot, right after my mother's damage control speech. Harrison grinned. Now that's the kind of revenge I can get behind. It's not about revenge, I corrected, though part of me knew that wasn't entirely true. It's about showing them a better way, Whether they take it or not is up to them. Levi looked torn. They won't like being publicly upstaged. They didn't like me choosing my own path either, I reminded him. But this time, they don't get a vote. I grabbed my laptop, pulling up our presentation files. We have work to do. Mother wants to talk about family. Fine. Let's show her what real family looks like, the kind that builds each other up instead of tearing each other down. Daniel smiled, that warm, supportive smile that had given me strength for the past year. Where do we start? We start, I said, determination filling me, by changing everything. The Green Innovation Expo Centre buzzed with activity as I stood backstage, watching my mother's presentation through the monitor. Her voice wavered slightly as she addressed the crowd. Our commitment to sustainable development remains unwavering, she claimed, though the audience's skeptical murmurs suggested otherwise. She's bombing, Harrison whispered, adjusting his tie. Half the investors are checking their phones. I smoothed my dress, fighting the urge to peek around the curtain. How long until our slot? 20 minutes, Daniel replied, double-checking our prototype's controls. Everything's ready. Ellie appeared, tablet in hand. You need to see this. Your mother's company just filed for emergency restructuring. Before I could respond, Levi slipped backstage. Pearl, there's something else. Leonard's here. What? I spun around. Why? He's buying up shares in Mom's company while they're down. I think he's planning a hostile takeover. The irony wasn't lost on me. The man my parents had wanted me to marry was now circling their company like a vulture. My mother's voice cracked on stage. And now I'd like to introduce our new initiative. Mrs. Santiago, a expo coordinator, approached. There's a problem with your demonstration model. I watched on the monitor as my mother's face paled. The sustainable house model they'd brought, their last-ditch effort to save face, wasn't working. The solar systems were offline, the water recycling display frozen. We need 15 minutes, her technical team pleaded. We don't have 15 minutes, the coordinator said firmly. Either demonstrate now or forfeit your slot. That's when my mother did something I'd never seen before. She froze. Pearl, Daniel touched my arm. This is your call. I looked at my team, Daniel with his brilliant innovations, Harrison with his business savvy, Ellie with her unwavering support, then at Levi, caught between loyalty and truth. Get our model ready, I decided. Now. What are you going to do? Levi asked. I was already walking toward the stage, something either very smart or very stupid. My heels clicked against the floor as I emerged into the spotlight. The audience stirred, recognizing me. My mother turned, her eyes widening. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke into the microphone. I'm Pearl, former chief architect at Santiago Developments and current CEO of Green Innovations. The room fell silent. My mother stands here promising you sustainable solutions, but instead of empty promises, let me show you what real innovation looks like. I gestured and Daniel activated our model. The massive screen behind us lit up with live data as our prototype house hummed to life. This isn't a concept or a PR stunt, I continued. This is functional, affordable, truly sustainable housing, and it's ready for production today. For the next 10 minutes, I walked the audience through every feature, every breakthrough. Daniel joined me, explaining the technical aspects while Harrison provided market projections. The audience was captivated. Investors who had been checking phones were now filming, taking notes, leaning forward in their seats. My mother stood to the side, watching. For the first time in my life, I saw something new in her expression. Respect. As we wrapped up, the questions came flooding in, but one voice cut through the chaos. Fascinating presentation? Leonard stood up. Would your company be interested in a partnership opportunity? I smiled, ready for this. Actually, we've already signed exclusive deals with 3 major developers, but I'm sure there are other opportunities out there. The message was clear. We didn't need his money anymore. As the audience broke into discussion groups, my mother approached the stage. Pearl. Not here, I said quietly. My office, tomorrow morning. She nodded. understanding the shift in power. What time? 9 a.m. Bring Dad and the company books. All of them. She hesitated, then asked, "Why are you doing this?" "Because you taught me to never waste a good business opportunity," I replied. "And because despite everything, you're still family." As she walked away, Daniel joined me. "You okay?" "Better than okay," I said, watching Leonard storm out while investors crowded around our display. "We just changed the game." Harrison appeared with his phone. "Orders are already coming in. We're going to need a bigger factory." "Pearl," Levi called out, "Mum's board members want to meet with you." I looked at my team, my real family, and felt a surge of pride. "Tell them to get in line. We've got work to do." As we gathered our materials, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the expo center's glass walls. I barely recognized the confident businesswoman staring back at me. "Ready to go build an empire?" Daniel asked, taking my hand. I squeezed his hand, thinking of tomorrow's meeting. "No, ready to rebuild one, the right way this time." The expo lights dimmed, but our future never looked brighter. Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in destroying your opponents, but in becoming everything they said you couldn't be. 9 o'clock sharp, and my parents sat across from me in our sleek conference room. The stack of company books between us told a story of desperation they'd never admit out loud. "Nice offices," my father commented stiffly, looking around at our modern workspace. "Very progressive." "We like it," I replied, watching Daniel set up his laptop for the presentation. Harrison sat beside me, reviewing the numbers one last time. My mother hadn't said a word since arriving. Her usual perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. "Let's get started," I said, opening the first folder. "Your company's bleeding money." "We're aware of our current challenges," my father bristled. "Challenges?" Harrison raised an eyebrow. "You're 3 months from complete collapse." "We didn't come here to be lectured by—" my father started, but my mother cut him off. "Robert, please," her voice cracked. "Let them speak." I pulled up their financial projections. "Your sustainable housing initiative was doomed from the start. You tried to fake innovation instead of actually innovating. We had shareholders to answer to," my father defended. "And now those shareholders are jumping ship," I countered. "Leonard's buying them out one by one." My mother flinched at Leonard's name. "We understand our position. What's your proposal?" Daniel stepped forward, pulling up our company's specs. "A full merger, your construction expertise combined with our technology." "Absolutely not," my father stood up. "We built this company from nothing. We're not just handing it over to—" "To what, Dad?" I interrupted. "To your daughter? The one you threw away because she wouldn't marry for money?" The room fell silent. Even Harrison looked uncomfortable. "You're not in a position to negotiate," I continued softly. "Leonard will take everything if you don't act now. At least with us, the company stays in the family." "Family?" My father laughed bitterly. "You walked away from family." "No." I stood to face him. "You pushed me away. And look where that got us." My mother reached for the technical specifications, her hands trembling slightly. "These numbers, they're remarkable." "They're real," Daniel confirmed, "unlike your green initiative claims." "Margaret," my father warned, but she ignored him. "How soon could we implement these systems?" she asked. "Mom!" "Robert, stop." She finally looked up, tears in her eyes. "Our daughter built something amazing while we were too proud to see it, and now she's offering to save us." "With conditions," Harrison added, sliding over a contract. My father snatched it up, his face reddening as he read. "You want controlling interest, and to restructure the board?" "Yes," I said simply, "because I won't let you destroy this company twice." "You don't trust us," my mother realized. "Would you, after everything?" Levi chose that moment to walk in, carrying fresh coffee. The tension in the room hit him like a wall. "How bad is it?" he asked, looking between our parents. "Your sister wants to take over," our father spat. "No," I corrected. "I want to save what's left, but only if you step back and let me do it right." "The shareholders' meeting is tomorrow," Harrison reminded everyone. "Leonard will make his move then." My mother reached for the contract. "If we agree, what happens to the existing staff?" We keep anyone who's willing to adapt, I assured her. This isn't about revenge, Mom. It's about building something better. Better than what we built? My father challenged. Better than what we could have built together if you'd listened to me 2 years ago. Daniel pulled up the expo presentation footage. Watch this. Really watch it. For the next few minutes, my parents saw what the rest of the world had seen. True innovation, real sustainability, actual progress. This could save the company, my mother whispered. It will save the company, I corrected. But only if you both step down. My father opened his mouth to argue, but my mother grabbed his hand. Robert, look at her. Really look. She's not our little girl anymore. She's the CEO we always wanted her to be. Just not the way you planned, I added softly. The room fell quiet again, but this time it felt different. Like something was shifting. Finally, my father picked up a pen. You'll keep the company name? No, I said firmly. We build under our brand, but we'll honor the legacy by doing it right. He nodded slowly, then signed. My mother followed suit, her signature steadier than I expected. Welcome to Green Innovations, Daniel said, without a trace of irony. As Harrison gathered the paperwork, my mother stood and did something unexpected. She hugged me. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything. I hugged her back, feeling the years of tension start to crack. I know. My father remained seated, still processing. But when Levi brought him coffee, I saw him smile slightly. You did good, kid, he admitted quietly. Better than we did. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. And this time, we'd build on a foundation of truth instead of expectations. The shareholders' meeting buzzed with tension as Leonard strode to the podium, his confidence radiating through his expensive suit. He had no idea what was coming. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, I stand before you with a solution to our company's current difficulties. I sat between my parents in the front row, watching him lay out his hostile takeover plan. Daniel squeezed my hand while Harrison smirked beside us. My offer represents the best path forward, Leonard continued. A clean break from recent, unfortunate decisions. My mother stiffened beside me. I touched her arm gently, a gesture that would have been unthinkable just days ago. Are there any other proposals before we vote? The board chairman asked. Actually, I stood up, smoothing my blazer. There are. Leonard's smile faltered as I walked to the podium. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by something darker. Pearl, he said through gritted teeth. What an unexpected surprise. Not really, I replied, taking control of the presentation screen. Green Innovations has already acquired controlling interest in this company. The room erupted in murmurs. Leonard's face reddened. That's impossible. The family wouldn't... The family did. My father stood up. As of yesterday, we've merged with Green Innovations under their leadership. Leonard turned to his lawyers, who were frantically flipping through papers. This isn't legal. The board hasn't approved. Check again, Harrison called out, waving a document. Emergency board meeting yesterday afternoon. All very legal, all very binding. I pulled up our new company structure on the screen. Shareholders will be pleased to know their stock value has already increased 12% since the merger announcement. Because of my bid, Leonard protested. No, I corrected, showing the market analysis. Because we've already secured contracts with 3 major developers who believe in actual sustainable innovation, not empty promises. The shareholders were paying attention now, calculators and phones out as they ran the numbers. This is absurd, Leonard sputtered. You're going to trust the company to the woman you tried to buy, I finished for him. No, they're trusting it to the CEO who just saved their investments. Daniel stepped forward with our prototype demonstrations. For the next 20 minutes, we showed the shareholders exactly what their money would build. Real innovation, real progress, real profits. The vote is simple, I concluded. Stay with us and be part of something revolutionary, or sell your shares to a man who represents everything wrong with old-school business. Leonard made one last attempt, This is emotional manipulation. She's using family drama to what? My mother suddenly spoke up. To build something better than we ever did. Yes, she is. The vote wasn't even close. Leonard stormed out before they finished counting, his takeover dreams crumbling behind him. As the shareholders filed out, many stopping to shake my hand, my father approached the podium. "Pearl," he said quietly, "I need to say something." "Dad, we don't have to." "Yes, we do." He took a deep breath. "I was wrong. About everything. About you, about Daniel, about what makes a company strong." My mother joined us, her eyes wet. We both were. "The past is past," I said firmly. "We focus on the future now." "Speaking of the future," Daniel called out, holding up his tablet. "The first development site just got approved. We break ground next month." Harrison was already making calls. "Media wants interviews. Everyone's talking about the merger." "They're talking about more than that," Ellie appeared, showing us her phone. "Leonard's other investments are taking hits. Turns out people don't like failed hostile takeovers." I looked around at my team, my family, both old and new, and felt something settle into place. "Let's get to work," I announced. "We have a company to rebuild." My father cleared his throat. "About that. Your mother and I have been thinking. The old office building. It's not very sustainable." "Not at all," my mother agreed. "Perhaps it's time for a new headquarters, something that showcases what we can really do?" Daniel's eyes lit up. "I have some ideas about that." "I bet you do," I laughed, then turned serious. "But first, we do this right. Full transparency, real innovation, no shortcuts." "Wouldn't have it any other way," Harrison said, already pulling up potential locations. As we left the meeting room, I caught my reflection in the window. The woman staring back wasn't just a CEO or a daughter or someone's almost bride. She was herself, strong, capable, and finally, completely free. "Ready to build something amazing?" Daniel asked, falling into step beside me. I looked at my parents, now deep in discussion with Harrison about sustainable office designs. At Ellie, already drafting press releases. At Levi, grinning as he took down the old company logo. "No," I smiled, ready to build everything. The future stretched out before us, bright and clear, and entirely our own. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. And now, cutting the ribbon for our first sustainable community development, the mayor's voice boomed across the gathered crowd as I stood beside Daniel, holding the oversized scissors. "Together," he whispered. "Together," I agreed, and we cut the red ribbon to thunderous applause. Behind us stood the first of many, a beautiful residential complex that merged my architectural vision with Daniel's innovative technology. Solar glass sparkled in the morning sun, vertical gardens cascaded down the walls, and happy families waited to move into their new homes. "This is what real change looks like," Harrison announced to the reporters. "Affordable, sustainable living for everyone, not just the wealthy." I caught sight of Leonard in the crowd, looking decidedly less polished than the last time I'd seen him. His failed takeover attempt had cost him more than money. His reputation had taken a hit, too. "Pearl!" Levi called out, waving me over to where he stood with our parents. Mum was crying, but for once they were happy tears. "It's beautiful," she said, touching the living wall. "Even better than your original designs." "Because this time, I had the right support," I replied, watching Daniel demonstrate the solar systems to a group of excited residents. My father cleared his throat. "About that, I have something to show you." He led us to a bench in the complex's central garden. "I found this while cleaning out my office." It was my original proposal from 2 years ago, the one they'd rejected. The pages were worn, covered in new notes in my father's handwriting. "You kept it?" I asked, surprised. "I read it every day after you left," he admitted, trying to understand where I went wrong. "Robert," my mother chided gently, "we both know where we went wrong. We valued the wrong things." Ellie appeared with a tablet. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see these numbers. Pre-orders for the next development are through the roof." "Not surprising," Harrison joined us. "After Leonard's company announced bankruptcy this morning." I looked up sharply. "What?" "Karma's funny that way," Levi grinned. His investors pulled out after our success. Turns out people prefer real innovation to empty promises. A young family walked past, their children pointing excitedly at the rooftop playground. Their joy felt like validation. This was why we'd built this place. "Pearl," Daniel called out, "the residents want to thank you." I walked over to where several families had gathered. A woman stepped forward, holding her daughter's hand. "We never thought we'd be able to afford a home like this," she said. "You've given us a future." Her words hit me hard. This wasn't about beating Leonard or proving my parents wrong anymore. It was about changing lives. "Speaking of futures," Daniel whispered in my ear, "there's something I need to ask you." He led me to the rooftop garden, our favorite spot during construction. The city sprawled below us, and in the distance I could see the construction sites of our next projects. "Remember when we met?" he asked. "You said you wanted to build something meaningful." "I remember." He pulled out a small box. "I think we've done that, but I was hoping we could build something else together." My heart stopped as he opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "Is that—" I started. "Not a business merger," he smiled. "Just love." Before I could answer, applause erupted behind us. Our families, both old and new, had followed us up. "About time," Harrison called out. "Well," my mother prompted, and I realized she'd known about this. I turned back to Daniel. "Yes," I said simply. "Yes to everything." As he slipped the ring on my finger, I caught sight of our reflection in the solar glass. Not a power couple, but a partnership. Equal, supportive, real. "I have one condition, though," I said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "We get married here, in the garden we built." "Perfect," my mother wiped away tears. A new beginning in a new place. My father hugged me, really hugged me, for the first time in years. "We're proud of you, Pearl, not because of the company's success, but because of who you've become." Looking around at our gathered family, Harrison already planning the wedding logistics, Ellie and Levi arguing about color schemes, my parents finally embracing the future instead of clinging to the past, I felt complete. "Ready to start our next project?" Daniel asked, taking my hand. Below us, families were moving into their new homes. Across the city, our other developments were rising, and here, in this garden we'd built from dreams and determination, our future was just beginning. "Always," I smiled, "but this time we're already home." The sun set behind us, painting the solar glass in shades of gold. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even or proving others wrong. Sometimes it's about building something so beautiful, so right, that it makes the past fade away like shadows at dawn.
The day my mother gave me the ultimatum still burns in my memory like a fresh wound. I can picture every detail. The way her fingers gripped her wine glass, how my father's shoulders tensed, and the look of smug satisfaction on my sister Yasmin's face. My name is Alina, and 7 years ago, I chose love over family. Not that they saw it that way. "It's him or us," my mother declared, her voice cutting through the tension in our family dining room. "You can't possibly expect us to accept a man like that into our family." I stared at the text message from Landon lighting up my phone. "Everything okay? I'm here if you need me." My fingers trembled as I set the phone face down on the table. "Mom, you don't even know him," I protested, fighting to keep my voice steady. "The charges were dropped. He was innocent. Innocent men don't get arrested in the first place," Yasmin chimed in, ever ready to twist the knife. "God, Alina, how naive can you be?" My brother Matthew sat silently, studying his plate as if it held the secrets of the universe. Typical. He never could handle confrontation. "Your sister's right," Dad finally spoke, his words heavy with disappointment. "We've worked too hard building our reputation in this community. What will people say when they find out our daughter is dating an ex-con?" He was cleared of all charges. I slammed my hand on the table, making the silverware jump. He built his company from nothing, and now— Enough! Mom's voice cracked like a whip. She set down her wine glass with deliberate precision. "Alina, we're not asking you to choose. We're telling you how it's going to be. End things with Landon or don't bother coming back here." The silence that followed felt like a physical weight on my chest. I looked around the table at the faces I'd known all my life. Mom's stern disapproval, Dad's weary resignation, Yasmin's barely concealed satisfaction, and Matthew's studied indifference. You want me to choose? I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Fine. I choose him. Alina, Dad warned, think very carefully about what you're doing. I have thought about it. I've thought about how none of you bothered to meet him, to hear his side of the story, to see the amazing person he is. My voice grew stronger with each word. You're so worried about your precious reputation that you can't see past your own prejudices. Don't you dare lecture us about prejudice, Mom snapped. That man, I cut her off, is the person I love. And if you can't accept that, then maybe I don't need this family. Yasmin laughed, a sharp, cruel sound. You'll come crawling back when he shows his true colors. Men like that don't change. I grabbed my phone and purse, my movements sharp and decisive. You know what's funny, Yasmin? At least Landon owned up to his mistakes and worked to become better. When was the last time any of you admitted to being wrong about anything? If you walk out that door, Mom said, her voice ice cold, don't expect to be welcomed back. I paused at the doorway, my hand on the frame. You know what, Mom? Right now, I can't imagine wanting to come back. The drive to Landon's apartment was a blur of tears and anger. When I pulled into his parking spot, he was already waiting outside, concern etched across his face. One look at me, and he knew. They made you choose, he asked softly as I fell into his arms. I nodded against his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. I chose you. He pulled back slightly, his eyes searching mine. Alina, I can't let you give up your family for me. Maybe if I talk to them. No, I said firmly, wiping my eyes. They made their choice. I made mine. We'll build our own life, create our own family. Are you sure? His voice was gentle, but I could hear the worry underneath. I looked up at him, really looked at him. The man who had turned his life around, who had built something meaningful from nothing, who loved me without conditions or ultimatums. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. That night, as we lay in bed, my phone buzzed with messages from my family. I turned it off without reading them. The choice was made. The die cast. I didn't know then that this decision would set in motion events that would change all our lives forever. But that's the thing about choices. You never really know their full impact until years later, when you look back and realize that some bridges, once burned, leave ashes that never quite cool. 7 years can change everything. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse office, watching the city buzz 40 stories below. My reflection showed a woman my family wouldn't recognize. Polished, confident, successful. The scared girl who drove away from their house that night was gone. Mrs. CEO, Landon's voice came from behind me. The board is waiting. I turned to face my husband, straightening my blazer. Still feels surreal. You earned this, he said, squeezing my shoulder. Every single bit of it. The journey flashed through my mind. Our first tiny office, the late nights, the endless cups of coffee. We'd built this empire together, brick by digital brick. Remember our first client meeting? I asked as we walked toward the boardroom. That startup that thought we were too small to handle their security needs? Landon laughed. Now they're one of our biggest clients. You convinced them to take a chance on us. We convinced them, I corrected. You with your brilliant software, me with my pitch. The boardroom doors opened to reveal 20 faces turned expectantly toward us. My best friend Hazel, our chief marketing officer, gave me a subtle thumbs up. Ladies and gentlemen, Landon addressed the room. As founder of SecureFlow, I've made many decisions over the years. But naming our new CEO? He turned to me with pride in his eyes. That was the easiest choice I've ever made. The applause felt like validation, not just of my abilities, but of every choice that led me here. After the meeting, Hazel cornered me in my new office. Okay, Spill, how does it feel to be the youngest female CEO of a Fortune 500 company? I sank into my chair, finally letting my professional mask slip. Honestly, it feels like vindication. Have you heard from them? Hazel knew about my family. She'd been there through everything. Not since last year's Christmas card was returned unopened. I pulled up our company's latest press release on my computer. But this announcement might change that. You think they'll reach out now that you're successful? I know they will. I clicked through our stock prices, all trending upward. Money and status are the only things they truly respect. And when they do. Hazel perched on my desk, her expression concerned. What then? Before I could answer, my assistant Sarah buzzed in. Ms. Alina, your husband's here with champagne. Landon entered carrying a bottle and 3 glasses. Hope I'm not interrupting? Just girl talk, Hazel winked. Well, this calls for celebration. He poured the champagne with practiced ease. To my brilliant wife, who took a small cybersecurity startup and helped transform it into a billion-dollar company. To us, I corrected, raising my glass, to proving everyone wrong. Later that night, as Landon and I walked home through the city streets, he brought up what we'd both been thinking. Your family will see the announcement. Let them see it. I stepped over a puddle, my heels clicking on the pavement. Let them see exactly what they threw away. You never told me what you'd do if they tried to reconcile. I stopped walking, turning to face him under the glow of a street lamp. Remember what you said when we started the company? Success is the best revenge? He nodded, realization dawning in his eyes. You've been planning for this. 7 years is a long time to think about justice. I resumed walking, my stride purposeful. If they reach out, when they reach out, I'll be ready. Alina? His tone carried a warning. Don't worry, I assured him, taking his hand. Everything I do will be completely legal, just like you taught me. At home, I stood on our balcony, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed with congratulatory messages from colleagues and friends. Soon I knew there would be other messages, different messages. Landon joined me, wrapping his arms around my waist. Whatever you're planning, just remember, we built all this together. Don't let them take away your peace. I leaned back against him, feeling the steady beat of his heart. They took away my family. My peace was collateral damage. We made our own family, he reminded me. Look at everything we've achieved. He was right, of course. We had everything: success, respect, love. But some wounds don't heal clean. Sometimes they leave scars that itch for resolution. My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from our PR team with tomorrow's newspaper headlines. Secure Flow names new CEO, the rise of Alina Simmons. I smiled, knowing that somewhere in the city, my family would be reading those same headlines over their morning coffee. The thought filled me with a satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. The game was about to begin, and I had all the pieces in place. The call came exactly 3 days after the announcement. I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports when Sarah's voice crackled through the intercom. Ms. Alina, there's a Yasmin Fuller on line 1. She says she's your sister. My hand hovered over the phone. 3 days. Longer than I'd expected, but right on schedule. Put her through, I said, straightening in my chair. Alina? Yasmin's voice hadn't changed. Still that same sugary sweetness that masked a serpent's tongue. It's been so long. 7 years, 2 months, and 16 days. I kept my voice neutral. But who's counting? A nervous laugh. I saw the news. CEO of Secure Flow. We're all so proud. We, I interrupted. And who exactly is we, Yasmin? The family, of course. Mom and Dad, Matthew. We've all been following your success. I pulled up my email, clicking through to a folder labeled Family. Inside were screenshots of their social media posts over the years, their carefully curated lives, never once mentioning me. How interesting, I said. I must have missed all your congratulatory messages along the way. About that. She paused, and I could picture her rehearsing her next words. We may have been hasty in our judgment. About everything. About Landon. Hasty? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. That's what you're calling it? People change, Alina. We've changed, and clearly we were wrong about Landon. Look at everything you've built together. I pressed my fingertips against my desk, grounding myself. Why are you calling, Yasmin? Really? Another pause. I miss my sister. We all miss you. Matthew's getting married next month, and Mom and Dad's 40th anniversary is coming up. It feels wrong not having you there. And the fact that I'm now CEO of a Fortune 500 company has nothing to do with this sudden attack of conscience? That's not fair, she protested. We're family. We were family, I corrected. 7 years ago, when I needed you most. Can't we move past that? Meet for coffee, maybe? Just you and me? The door opened and Hazel walked in, stopping short when she saw me on the phone. I waved her in. You know what? I said to Yasmin. Coffee sounds perfect. Tomorrow 10 a.m. at Riverside Cafe. Really? The surprise in her voice was almost comical. That's wonderful. I'll be there. After hanging up, I turned to Hazel. Right on schedule. That was her? Hazel dropped into the chair across from me. What did she want? Exactly what we predicted. Family reunions, wedding invitations, and a healthy dose of guilt tripping. And you agreed to meet her? I smiled, pulling up a different folder on my computer. Of course, it's all part of the plan. Alina. Hazel leaned forward. Are you sure about this? Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't just revenge, I cut her off. This is justice. They need to understand what they did. My phone buzzed. A text from Landon. Yasmin called you? News travels fast, I muttered, typing back, yes, meeting her tomorrow. His response was immediate. Want me there? No, I replied. I need to do this alone. Hazel was watching me carefully. What exactly are you planning? I turned my monitor toward her, showing the event details for SecureFlow's upcoming 10th anniversary gala. The biggest tech celebration of the year. Every major player in the industry will be there. Press, celebrities, influencers. And your family? They'll receive very special invitations. After all, I smiled, we're reconciling. This seems elaborate even for you. 7 years gives you time to plan. I stood up, walking to the window. They didn't just reject me, Hazel. They tried to break me. They wanted me to fail, to come crawling back, proving them right. But you didn't. No, I didn't. And now they want to pretend none of it happened, to slip back into my life now that it's convenient. I turned back to her. They don't get to do that. My phone buzzed again. Yasmin confirming tomorrow's meeting. Perfect. Just be careful, Hazel warned. Don't let this consume you. I nodded, but my mind was already racing ahead, plotting each move like a chess game. Tomorrow would be the opening gambit, appearing receptive, vulnerable, ready to reconcile. Yasmin would report back to the others, and then, trust me, I told Hazel. Everything is going exactly as planned. As she left, I pulled up the gala invitation template on my screen. It would be perfect, elegant, exclusive, promising everything my status-obsessed family couldn't resist. They thought they were orchestrating a reunion. In reality, they were walking right into my carefully laid trap, and I couldn't wait to spring it. Riverside Cafe buzzed with morning energy as I watched Yasmin approach my table. She looked exactly the same. Designer handbag, perfect makeup, practiced smile. I stood to greet her, accepting her tentative hug with calculated warmth. You look amazing, she gushed, sliding into her seat. Success suits you. Coffee first, I smiled, signaling the waiter. Then we can talk. Once our orders arrived, Yasmin launched into her carefully rehearsed speech. We've all changed so much, Alina. Matthew's found someone wonderful. Mom's mellowed out, and Dad, he keeps your newspaper coverage in his study. How touching. I stirred my latte slowly. And you? Still working at the boutique? Her smile faltered slightly. Actually, I've been thinking about a career change. The fashion industry is so volatile these days. I took a sip, watching her over the rim of my cup. What did you have in mind? Well? She leaned forward conspiratorially. I heard SecureFlow is expanding its marketing department. There it was. I bit back a smile. Is that what this is about, Yasmin? A job? No! She reached across the table, grabbing my hand. This is about family, about making things right. The job, that would just be a bonus, a chance to work together like sisters should. I pulled my hand away, reaching into my bag. Speaking of family, I withdrew 4 elegant black envelopes. These are for you, Matthew, Mom, and Dad. Her eyes widened as she took them. What are they? Invitations to SecureFlow's 10th anniversary gala. Next month at the Grand Plaza Hotel. Very exclusive. Celebrities, tech giants, press coverage. The perfect place for a family reunion, don't you think? Alina, I don't know what to say. Say you'll come, all of you. I leaned forward. Let's show everyone that the past is behind us. Back at the office, Hazel was waiting in my private conference room. How did it go? Like taking candy from a baby. I kicked off my heels, sinking into a chair. She practically salivated over the invitations. And she bought it? The reconciliation? People believe what they want to believe. I pulled up the gala's security protocols on my tablet. She thinks she's manipulating me. That's what makes it perfect. Hazel studied the plans. Private security at every entrance, guest list verification, media coverage. This is thorough. It has to be. I showed her the special instructions for my family's arrival. When they're turned away at the door in front of everyone, you're going to humiliate them publicly. They'll feel exactly what I felt that night. Rejected, exposed, humiliated. I scrolled through the media list. And this time, there will be cameras. Have you told Landon? I shook my head. He knows something's coming, but not the details. Plausible deniability. My phone buzzed. A text from Yasmin. Everyone's so excited about the gala. Mom's already shopping for a dress. Perfect, I murmured, showing Hazel the message. Alina? Hazel set down the tablet. I get why you're doing this, but revenge has a way of backfiring. This isn't just revenge. I stood, walking to the window. This is about consequences. They thought they could waltz back into my life when it suited them, use me for connections and jobs. They need to understand that actions have repercussions. And after? What then? Then I move forward. No more looking back, no more wondering what if. Clean slate. The door opened and Landon entered, looking between us. Everything okay? Just finalizing gala details, I said smoothly. How was your meeting? Good. He studied my face. Yasmin called. Said you were very receptive. I can be very convincing when I need to be. He exchanged a look with Hazel. Whatever you're planning, trust me, I cut him off. Please. Later that night, I reviewed the security footage from the cafe meeting. Watched Yasmin's calculated performance, her practiced sincerity. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Matthew and my parents, all suddenly eager to reconnect. I opened my laptop, pulling up the email I'd prepared. Subject line, Media Advisory, Secure Flow Gala Promises Surprise Announcements. My finger hovered over the send button. Once this went out, there would be no turning back. The press would be primed, cameras ready. I thought about 7 years of silence, of holidays spent alone, of wedding invitations that never came. I pressed send. The pieces were in motion now. In 1 month, my family would arrive at the Grand Plaza Hotel, dressed in their finest, ready to capitalize on my success. Instead, they'd find locked doors and rolling cameras. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a spotlight. The Grand Plaza Hotel gleamed like a jewel in the evening light. From my private security room, I watched the monitors as guests began arriving. Each screen showed a different angle. The main entrance, side doors, VIP access points. No detail left to chance. They're here, Hazel announced, pointing to a monitor showing my family stepping out of a black SUV. My mother emerged first, resplendent in a designer gown. Dad followed, adjusting his bow tie. Matthew and his fiancée, then Yasmin bringing up the rear. Right on time, I murmured, checking my watch. Begin Operation Lockout. The head of security, Marcus, spoke into his radio. All units in position. Commence Protocol 7. I watched as they approached the main entrance, my mother leading the charge like a general into battle. The security guard checked his tablet. Names, please? Lynch party of 5, my mother announced with practiced authority. We're personal guests of Alina Simmons. The guard frowned at his tablet. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing those names on the list. There must be some mistake. My mother's voice carried clearly through the speakers. We're her family. Ma'am, if you're not on the list, I can't let you in. Yasmin pushed forward. Call Alina. She'll sort this out. I'm afraid Ms. Simmons has given strict instructions not to be disturbed. The guard's voice remained professionally neutral. You'll need to step aside for other guests. The cameras caught every detail. My mother's reddening face, my father's clenched jaw, Yasmin's growing panic. Matthew and his fiancée shifted uncomfortably as other guests began to stare. This is ridiculous, my mother hissed. We have invitations. She thrust the black envelope at the guard, who examined it briefly. I'm sorry, ma'am, but these invitations appear to be invalid. A reporter nearby perked up, sensing drama. Excuse me, did you say you're Alina Simmons's family? Yes, Yasmin jumped in, desperate for an ally. There's clearly been a mix-up. Interesting, the reporter cut in, because Ms. Simmons has publicly stated she has no family. The cameras caught my mother's face crumpling, then hardening. We are very much her family, and when I speak to her, ma'am, Marcus stepped forward, right on cue. If you continue to create a disturbance, we'll have to escort you off the property. More reporters were gathering now, phones recording. My family's humiliation was being captured in real time, just as planned. Alina! My father's voice boomed across the entrance. Alina, we know you can hear us. Should we intervene? Hazel asked softly. I shook my head, eyes fixed on the monitors. Not yet. Security began to move in, forming a barrier between my family and the entrance. Guests streamed past them, whispering and pointing. You can't do this to us. Yasmin was nearly crying now. We're family. Family? I whispered to the screen. Where was family when I needed you? The media was in a feeding frenzy, capturing every moment of their undignified exit. Matthew practically dragged his fiancée away, while my parents stood their ground until Marcus personally escorted them to their car. Ms. Simmons? Sarah's voice came through my earpiece. You're needed for the opening speech in 5 minutes. I stood, smoothing my dress. How do I look, Hazel? Like someone who just won a war. She paused. Are you sure about this? They needed to understand. I checked my reflection one last time. 7 years ago, they threw me away like I was nothing. Tonight, they learned what that feels like. The ballroom was packed when I took the stage. Cameras flashed as I approached the microphone, my smile perfectly practiced. Welcome to SecureFlow's 10th anniversary celebration, I began, scanning the crowd. Tonight is about family, not the family you're born into, but the family you choose. My eyes found Landon in the crowd, standing with our executive team. He gave me a slight nod, understanding dawning in his eyes. Success isn't just about making money or gaining power, I continued. It's about surrounding yourself with people who believe in you, who stand by you when times are tough. From the security room, Hazel sent me a text. They're still outside, demanding to speak to you. Perfect. Tonight, we celebrate not just our company's success, but the loyalty and trust that made it possible. In business, as in life, you learn who truly stands with you. The applause was thunderous, but I barely heard it. In my mind, I was watching the monitors, seeing my family's faces as they realized the truth. This wasn't a reconciliation, it was reckoning, and it wasn't over yet. The night was young, and I had one more surprise waiting in the wings. The gala was in full swing when Marcus's voice crackled through my earpiece. Ms. Simmons, they're back, all of them, and your mother is insistent. I excused myself from a group of investors and made my way to the security room. On the monitors, my family had regrouped, this time with reinforcements. My mother's brother, a local judge, was with them. Let me handle this, I told Marcus, heading for the main entrance. Hazel caught up with me in the hallway. Are you sure you want to face them? Oh, yes. I straightened my spine. This is the finale. The night air was cool as I stepped outside. Security parted to reveal my family, their perfect appearances now distinctly ruffled. Uncle Robert, I greeted the judge coolly. This is a surprise. Alina, he started, all judicial authority. This behavior is beneath you. Your mother— My mother? I cut him off. You mean the woman who disowned me? Who told me I was dead to her? That was 7 years ago. My mother interjected. People change. No, Mom. People don't change. They just reveal who they truly are. I gestured to the gathering crowd of reporters. Like tonight, when you thought you could use me for social climbing. That's not fair. Yasmin stepped forward. We were trying to make amends. Really? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages. Let's see. I heard SecureFlow is expanding its marketing department. Matthew's fiancée would love to intern at your company. Your father's investment firm would be interested in a partnership. I looked up. Those kinds of amends? The reporters' cameras were flashing continuously now. My family's expressions ranged from shock to fury as they realized this was being documented. You set us up, Matthew said slowly. The invitations, the reconciliation, it was all a trap. I learned from the best. I smiled coldly. Family first, right? Isn't that what you always said, Mom? Enough! My father's voice boomed. You've made your point. You've humiliated us. Are you happy now? Happy? I laughed, the sound sharp as broken glass. I was happy 7 years ago, before you forced me to choose between my family and the man I loved. I was happy building a life with someone you deemed unworthy, while you spread rumors about me in your social circles. Uncle Robert tried again. Alina, surely we can discuss this privately. No. I stepped closer, my voice carrying clearly to the reporters. 7 years ago, you made me face your judgment publicly. Tonight, you face mine. You ungrateful, my mother started, but security moved forward. I think it's time for you to leave, Marcus said firmly. This isn't over, Yasmin hissed as they were led away. Actually, it is. I held up my phone. Everything that happened here tonight, it's already trending on social media. The family karma is quite popular. Their faces paled as realization hit. The society pages they loved so much would be telling a very different story tomorrow. Back inside, Landon was waiting. I saw the commotion. Are you okay? Never better. I straightened his tie. Ready to announce the Tokyo expansion? He caught my hand. Alina, what you did out there was necessary. I met his eyes. They needed to understand that actions have consequences, that they can't just waltz back into my life when it's convenient. And now? Now we focus on what matters. I nodded toward the ballroom. Our real family, the people who stood by us. As we returned to the gala, my phone buzzed with a message from Matthew. You've destroyed Mom's reputation in her social circles. I hope you're satisfied. I typed back, like you destroyed mine 7 years ago. Karma's funny that way. Hazel appeared at my side. The video's gone viral. Your family's trending for all the wrong reasons. Good. I watched as Landon took the stage to announce our international expansion. Let them feel what it's like to be the family scandal for once. Was it worth it? She asked softly. I thought about the years of pain, the lonely holidays, the wedding invitations that never came. Then I thought about tonight. Their shocked faces, their desperate attempts to save face, their final realization that they'd lost all power over me. Every second, I replied, raising my champagne glass as Landon called me to join him on stage. The applause washed over us as I took my place beside my husband, surrounded by people who had earned their place in my life. This was my family now, and unlike the one I was born into, this one was built on something stronger than blood. It was built on choice. 1 week after the gala, I sat in my home office, 5 identical packages spread across my desk. Each contained a USB drive and a letter addressed to every member of my family, including Uncle Robert. Are you sure about this? Landon asked from the doorway. The gala footage is already everywhere. This is different. I picked up one of the letters. This is personal. The footage I'd compiled wasn't just from the gala. It included security camera clips from 7 years ago, the night they threw me out, social media posts where they'd mocked my choices, screenshots of them trying to sabotage my early career. You kept everything, he noted, looking over my shoulder at the computer screen. I learned from you. Always keep receipts. My phone buzzed, Hazel sending a link to the latest Society page article. Tech CEO's family drama exposes high society hypocrisy. They're being crucified in the press, Landon said softly. Isn't that enough? I sealed the last envelope. No, they need to understand exactly what they did. Every cruel word, every manipulative action. Alina, I'm sending these by courier. They'll arrive simultaneously. I checked my watch. In about 2 hours. Right on schedule, my phone lit up with a call from Yasmin. I let it go to voicemail. Then Matthew. Then Mom. Their messages grew increasingly frantic as they watched the footage. How dare you record private family moments? Mom's voice shook with rage in her voicemail. Private family moments? I muttered, playing the security footage again. Like when you called me a disgrace? When you told the country club I was mentally unstable? The doorbell rang. Landon went to answer it while I stayed focused on the screens, watching the social media fall out in real time. Your sister's here, he called up. Which one? I asked, though I already knew. Yasmin. She's crying. I descended the stairs slowly, finding my sister collapsed on our sofa, mascara streaking her cheeks. How could you? She choked out. That footage, my friends have seen it, my boss. Karma's a mirror, Yasmin. I remained standing. It reflects back what you put out into the world. I lost my job today, she whispered. The boutique said they can't have this kind of scandal associated with their brand. Like when you told my first investors I was unstable? When you sabotaged my early contracts? She flinched. That was different. No, it wasn't. I sat across from her. You tried to destroy my life because I chose love over your toxic control. Now you're experiencing the consequences. Mom's had to resign from 3 charity boards, she said quietly. Matthew's fiance's family is reconsidering the wedding. Actions have consequences, I repeated, something our family never seemed to understand. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Robert this time? His message was brief. We need to talk, all of us. They want to meet, I told Landon after Yasmin left. Damage control, probably. Will you go? I pulled up the final video on my laptop, the one I hadn't included in the packages. Security footage from my office the day after the gala, showing me recording a message. No need, I smiled. I've already prepared my response. The video went live that evening on all major social platforms. In it, I sat at my desk, composed and professional. 7 years ago, my family gave me an ultimatum. Them or the man I loved. They thought they were punishing me. Instead, they set me free. Success isn't just about wealth or status. It's about choosing your own path, even when others try to block it. This isn't about revenge. It's about truth, about consequences, about showing that family should lift you up, not tear you down. Within hours, it had gone viral. The comments flooded in, stories of family estrangement, of toxic relationships, of choosing love over obligation. You've started a movement, Hazel texted. People are sharing their own stories. Choosing love is trending. I closed my laptop, walking to the window. Somewhere in the city, my family was watching their carefully constructed social world crumble. They were feeling what I felt, exposed, vulnerable, judged. But unlike them, I had built something real. Something that couldn't be shattered by society gossip or family disapproval. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Matthew. I understand now. What we did to you. I'm sorry. I left it unread. Some apologies come too late. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Besides, I had a company to run, a husband who loved me, and friends who had become family. That was worth more than any apology. The autumn wind whipped around me as I stood at my father's grave. The funeral had ended hours ago, but I couldn't bring myself to leave yet. Mom and the others had gone, not acknowledging my presence beyond tight-lipped glances. I thought I'd find you here, Landon said, appearing beside me. You okay? He never reached out, I said quietly. Even at the end. The headlines from last week flashed through my mind. Business tycoon dies without reconciling with CEO daughter. Maybe he wanted to, Landon offered. Pride can be a prison. So can hate. I placed a single white rose on the fresh earth. I thought revenge would feel different. Different how? More satisfying. More final. I turned away from the grave. Instead, I just feel empty. Back at the office, Hazel was waiting with fresh coffee and concern. The press wants a statement about your father's passing. No statement. I sank into my chair. Let the silence speak for itself. There's something else. She handed me an envelope. Your mother's lawyer delivered this. Inside was a letter in my father's handwriting, dated 3 days before his death. I can't, I whispered, pushing it away. Want me to read it? Hazel offered. I nodded, watching her unfold the paper. Alina, she began, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Pride kept me from saying these words while I could. I was wrong. The night we forced you to choose, we weren't protecting our family. We were destroying it. I watched you build an empire from nothing, proving every doubt wrong. You became everything we claimed to value, successful, respected, principled, but you did it without us, because of us. I'm sorry. Not because you're successful now, but because we failed you then. Your mother won't approve of this letter. Some wounds run too deep to heal, but you deserve to know. I died proud of you. Love, Dad." The office fell silent except for the hum of computers. "Alina?" Hazel touched my shoulder. "He was right," I said, standing abruptly. "Some wounds run too deep." I walked to the window, watching the city below. My phone buzzed. Yasmin trying again. She'd been calling daily since Dad's diagnosis. This time, I answered. "What do you want, Yasmin?" "I'm at the coffee shop across from your office," she said quietly. "Just, please, 5 minutes." I found her at a corner table, looking smaller somehow, defeated. "Dad's letter," she began. "Did you—" "Yes?" "He wanted to reach out so many times." She twisted her napkin. "We all did. But after what you did at the gala, exposed us." "I exposed the truth," I corrected. "Nothing more." "The truth?" She laughed bitterly. "The truth is we were terrible to you. The truth is we deserved everything you did. The truth is, I miss my sister. The sister you had died 7 years ago." "I know." She met my eyes. "But maybe the sister you are now would be willing to get coffee sometimes. No agenda, no family pressure, just coffee." I studied her face, searching for manipulation but finding only exhaustion. "Why now?" "Because Dad's death showed me something. Pride and Prejudice cost us 7 years. How many more are we willing to lose?" My phone buzzed. Landon checking in. I typed quickly. "I'm okay, having coffee with Yasmin." His response was immediate. "Remember, forgiveness is for you, not them." "Coffee," I said finally. "Once a month, just us. No Mom, no Matthew, no pressure." "Really?" Hope flickered across her face. "Really, but Yasmin." I leaned forward. "If this is another manipulation—" "It's not," she interrupted. I don't want to be at another funeral wondering about what could have been." Later, in bed, Landon held me as I finally let the tears come. "You know what's funny?" I whispered. "All that revenge, all that planning. And in the end, Dad's letter hit harder than anything I did." "Because it was real," he said softly. "No games, no manipulation, just truth." "Do you think I'm weak for agreeing to coffee with Yasmin?" "I think you're strong enough to set boundaries without building walls." I thought about Dad's letter, about Yasmin's tired eyes, about the weight of carrying anger for so long. "I'm not forgiving them," I said firmly, "but maybe I can stop letting them take up so much space in my head." "That's not weakness," Landon kissed my forehead. "That's wisdom." Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere out there, my family was dealing with their own regrets, their own consequences. But here, in this moment, I was finally free. Not because of revenge, but because I chose to be. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about making others hurt. It's about refusing to let them hurt you anymore. That's the revenge I should have planned all along.
The black SUV crawled past my house for the 3rd time that morning, but I was too focused on my empty driveway to care. My car, my beautiful silver Mazda that I'd spent 3 years paying off, was gone. In its place was nothing but oil stains and gravel, mocking me with memories of what should have been there. I'm Georgia, and this was the moment my life started unraveling like a cheap sweater. "Mom!" I shouted, bursting through the front door. The house smelled like coffee and guilt. "Where's my car?" My mother sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Honey, I can explain." "Explain what? That my car magically disappeared overnight?" My voice cracked. I'd just gotten back from a 3-day environmental research trip, exhausted and dreaming of a hot shower, only to find this nightmare instead. "I had to sell it," she whispered, not meeting my eyes. "Kyson? He was in trouble." Of course, it always came back to my brother. What kind of trouble? "He owed some people money. They were threatening him, Georgia. What was I supposed to do? Call the police? Tell him to face consequences for once in his life?" I grabbed the edge of the counter to steady myself. "How much?" 20,000. The room spun. 20,000. Mom, that car was worth twice that. Who did you sell it to? A dealer. He gave cash, no questions asked. She finally looked up, tears in her eyes. Your brother would have been hurt. So you stole from me instead? The words tasted like battery acid. Where is he? I don't know. He hasn't been home in days. My phone was in my hand before I could think. 3 rings, then Kyson's voicemail. You better call me back, I hissed. Or I swear to God I'm going straight to the police. That black SUV rolled by again, slower this time. Through the tinted windows, I caught a glimpse of someone watching our house. You can't go to the police, Mom pleaded, grabbing my arm. These people, they're dangerous. I yanked away from her. More dangerous than stealing my car? More dangerous than enabling Kyson's gambling? It's not gambling. It's... She caught herself, but too late. It's what, Mom? What aren't you telling me? The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Outside, a car door slammed. Georgia, Mom's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Please just let it go, for all our sakes. Someone knocked at the front door. 3 sharp raps that made Mom flinch. I'm calling the police, I said, pulling out my phone again. No! Mom lunged for my phone, but I held it out of reach. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. My brother's gotten himself into something illegal, and you're helping him destroy this family. Again. The knocking came harder this time. Mom backed away from the door, shaking her head. Mrs. Simmons? A male voice called out. We need to discuss the payment schedule. I moved toward the door, but Mom grabbed my shirt. Please, she begged, don't answer it. Looking at her terrified face, something clicked. This wasn't just about Kyson's gambling. This was bigger, darker, and my car was just the beginning. I pulled out my phone and started recording, keeping it hidden behind my back. Coming, I called out, ignoring Mom's desperate attempts to stop me. When I opened the door, 2 men in expensive suits stood there. The black SUV idled behind them. Can I help you? I asked, voice steady despite my racing heart. The taller man smiled, all teeth and no warmth. We're looking for Kyson. Is he home? No, but I'd love to talk about my car that was sold to cover his debts. The man's smile didn't waver. I'm afraid that's a private family matter. So, is this conversation, I replied, which I'm recording for the police. Their faces hardened instantly. The shorter man took a step forward, but his partner grabbed his arm. We'll be in touch, the tall one said, turning away. Tell Kyson he has 3 days. I watched them drive away, my hand shaking as I stopped the recording. Behind me, Mom had collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I'm filing a police report, I said, my voice ice cold. And this time, you're not stopping me. They'll kill him, she whispered. Then he better start talking fast. I grabbed my jacket and keys, to the house, since my car keys were gone along with my car. Because whatever he's involved in, it ends now. As I walked to the bus stop, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stay out of it, sister. Some debts can only be paid in blood. I took a screenshot and kept walking. They thought they could scare me into silence. They clearly didn't know what happened when someone messed with my family, even if that someone was family themselves. Detective Sergio's office smelled like stale coffee and printer ink. He studied the recording on my phone, replaying it for the 3rd time while I fidgeted in the hard plastic chair. These aren't your typical loan sharks, he said finally, sliding the phone back to me. The way they operate, the suits, the careful language, this is organized. I don't care what they are. I want my car back. Your car's probably already been chopped and sold for parts. He leaned forward. But that's not what really concerns me. Your brother's gotten himself mixed up with some dangerous people. I pulled out Kyson's laptop, the one I'd grabbed from his room while Mom was in the shower. Maybe this will help. It was hidden under his mattress. Sergio's eyebrows shot up as he opened it. The screen flickered to life, revealing a login page. Any idea what his password might be? A memory flashed. Kyson and me, kids again, building a fort in the backyard. Our secret hideout where we'd share everything. Try Fortnite 1995. The screen unlocked. How'd you know? He was always sentimental about stupid things. I swallowed hard, remembering how close we used to be. Check his emails. Sergio clicked through folders, his frown deepening. These messages, they're encoded. Look at this pattern. The emails seemed normal at first glance. Discussions about fantasy football, movie reviews, casual chat. But there was something off about them. Wait, I said, pointing at the screen. These movie ratings, they're all numbers between 1 and 10, but they're for movies that don't exist. Good catch. Sergio grabbed a notepad. Could be a simple substitution cipher, each number representing something else. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Laptop was insurance. Bad move, sister. They know, I whispered, showing Sergio the message. He immediately closed the laptop. You need protection. These people. I need answers. I stood up, pacing the small office. Kyson's never been perfect, but he's not a criminal. Someone's got leverage on him, and I bet it has something to do with Mom. What makes you say that? The way she's acting. She's terrified, but not just for Kyson. It's like she's afraid of something else. I stopped pacing. I need to talk to him. Georgia, these people are watching you. If you... My phone rang. Kyson's name flashed on the screen. Sergio nodded, hitting record on his desk device. Where are you? I demanded. Sis, I'm sorry. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. I never meant for any of this to happen. Then fix it. Come in and talk to the police. I can't. They've got Mom. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean they've got Mom? I just saw her this morning. Check the house. She won't be there. He took a shaky breath. They knew you took the laptop. This is my fault. All of it. Kyson, what did you do? It started as gambling, I swear. Just cards, normal stuff. But then, they showed me the photos of Mom meeting with their boss last year. Said they'd expose everything if I didn't help them. Help them with what? Moving money, lots of it, through accounts I set up at work. He paused. The gambling debts were just a cover story. Sergio was already on his phone, dispatching units to our house. Where are you? I asked again, softer this time. Somewhere safe, for now. His voice cracked. But they want the laptop back, or they'll hurt her. I'm so sorry, Georgia. I thought I was protecting her, but I just made everything worse. We can help you, I said, looking at Sergio, who nodded encouragingly. Both of you, just tell me where to meet. No, don't you get it? This goes deeper than you know. Mom's not just a victim. She was involved before I was. The photos prove it. Static crackled on the line. Someone spoke in the background. I have to go, Kyson said quickly. Don't trust anyone, even the cops. Some of them are... The line went dead. Sergio was already moving. We'll trace the call. Your house is being checked now. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo. Mom, sitting in what looked like a warehouse office, holding today's newspaper. She looked unharmed but terrified. They're playing us, I said, showing Sergio the photo. Using Mom to control Kyson. Using Kyson to control me. The question is why? What's on this laptop that's so important? I stared at the screen, at the encoded emails. Whatever it is, we have 12 hours to figure it out. Look at the newspaper in the photo. It's the morning edition. They're sending a message. You should go somewhere safe, Sergio said. Let us handle this. I thought of Kyson's warning about the police, about Mom's involvement being deeper than we knew, about the black SUV that kept watching our house. No, I said, pulling the laptop closer. I'm staying. Those emails are the key to everything. I met Sergio's concerned gaze. And right now, I don't know who to trust except myself. The numbers swam before my eyes as I scribbled another failed attempt at cracking the code. 6 hours had passed in Sergio's office, and we were getting nowhere. Take a break, Sergio said, returning with fresh coffee. You're going to burn out. I can't. I rubbed my temples. Mom's out there somewhere and... My phone lit up. Another message. Getting warmer, but time's running out. They're watching us, I said, showing Sergio. Somehow, they know what we're doing. He immediately pulled the blinds shut. There must be a leak in the department. I stared at the laptop screen, at those endless emails about fake movies. Something clicked. Wait, these aren't movie ratings. I grabbed a fresh piece of paper. Their coordinates, latitude and longitude, split across multiple messages. Sergio leaned over my shoulder as I mapped out the numbers. Storage facilities, he said, all across the state. Money laundering, I whispered. That's what Kaisen meant about moving money. A sharp knock made us both jump. Marissa, my best friend from college, stood in the doorway. Your neighbor called me, she said. Said there were police at your house. Why didn't you tell me what was happening? Because I didn't want to drag anyone else into this mess. I hesitated, then made a decision. But since you're here, you're good with patterns, right? Take a look at this. As Marissa studied the emails, her eyes widened. These aren't just coordinates. Look at the timestamps. They're routing instructions. Someone's moving something through these locations in a specific order. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from another unknown number. Put it on speaker, Sergio said, recording device ready. Hello? Smart girl, a distorted voice said. But do you understand what you're really looking at? Where's my mother? Safe for now, but we need that laptop back. You have 6 hours left. Let me talk to her. A pause, then Mom's voice. Georgia, baby, I'm so sorry. I never meant... That's enough, the voice cut in. Bring the laptop to the storage facility on 5th and Main. Come alone, or Mommy Dearest takes a swim in the harbor. The line went dead. It's a trap, Sergio said immediately. Obviously. I stood up, pacing. But what choice do we have? We could set up a sting operation, get tactical teams in place. No. I remembered Kaisen's warning about corrupt cops. They'll know. They always know. Marissa, who'd been quiet, suddenly gasped. These aren't just storage facilities. Look at the company names. They're all owned by shell corporations linking back to one holding company, Meridian Trust. My mother's bank, I said, where she's worked for 15 years. Everything started falling into place. Mom's strange behavior, the photos they were using to blackmail Kaisen, the money movement patterns. My phone rang again. This time, it was Kaisen. Don't trust Sergio, he said without preamble. He's been on their payroll for months. I looked up at the detective, who was watching me with concerned eyes. Was he really part of this? Prove it, I said. Check his left desk drawer. There's a burner phone. Same model they gave me for communications. My heart pounding, I walked to Sergio's desk. Mind if I check something? He stepped aside, looking confused. Go ahead. I pulled open the drawer. There, under some papers, was a cheap flip phone. Sergio's face changed instantly. He reached for his gun, but Marissa was faster, throwing her coffee mug at his head. It connected with a crack, and he stumbled. I grabbed the laptop and ran, Marissa right behind me. We could hear Sergio shouting into his radio as we hit the stairs. My car's out back, Marissa said as we burst into the parking lot. Where to? 5th and Main, I said, clutching the laptop. But we're not giving this back. Not until we know everything. As we drove, Kaisen's voice came through my phone. There's a program on that laptop. It tracks all their transactions, all their dirty money. Mom found out about it last year. Tried to report it, but they caught her. Been using her as leverage ever since. Why didn't she tell me? To protect you. Same reason I kept quiet. He paused. I'm at the storage facility. Got here an hour ago. They don't know yet. You're crazy. They'll kill you. Maybe, but I'm done running. Done letting them hurt our family. His voice hardened. I'm sending you a file. Everything I know about their operation. If anything happens to me or Mom, make it public. The file appeared on my phone. Documents, photos, transaction records. Kaisen, wait. I love you, sis. Sorry I was such a screw-up. He hung up. Marissa glanced at me as we sped through a yellow light. What's the plan? I stared at the laptop, at my phone with its damning evidence, at the approaching storage facility where my brother was about to do something incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. We're going to finish this, I said. All of it. The storage facility loomed ahead, its gates open like a monster's mouth, ready to swallow us whole. Marissa killed the headlights as we pulled into the storage facility. The place was a maze of identical orange doors and concrete walls, security cameras blinking like red eyes in the growing darkness. "This is insane," she whispered. "We should call the FBI or something." "No time." I checked my phone's map. Unit 247, that's where the coordinates point. A figure emerged from the shadows, making us both jump. "Kyson, you shouldn't have come," he said, opening my door, "but I'm glad you did." "Where's Mom?" "Building C, second floor office. 2 guards outside, one with her." He looked worse than he sounded on the phone, bruised eye, split lip. "They don't know I'm here yet." "What happened to your face?" "Doesn't matter. Listen, I've got a plan." Headlights swept across the lot, the black SUV. "Hide!" Kyson shoved us between 2 storage units. "Whatever happens, wait for my signal." We pressed ourselves against the cold metal as car doors slammed. "Right on time," a man's voice said. "Where's your sister?" "She's coming," Kyson replied. "Had to ditch some cops first." "The laptop?" "She'll bring it, but I want to see my mother first." Footsteps moved away. I peered around the corner. 3 men in suits were leading Kyson toward Building C. "Now what?" Marissa asked. I pulled out my phone, forwarding Kyson's file to every news outlet in my contacts. "Now we get ready." "For what?" "Something stupid." I handed her the laptop. "Take this to your car. If anything happens, drive straight to Channel 7 News. They're expecting you." "Georgia, no. Please. I need someone I can trust on the outside." She hugged me fiercely, then disappeared into the darkness with the laptop. I counted to 30, then followed the path Kyson had taken. Building C loomed ahead, its second-floor windows illuminated. Through the glass, I could see Mom sitting in an office chair, hands bound. A service ladder ran up the building's back wall. My environmental fieldwork was about to pay off in an unexpected way. The metal rungs were cold against my palms as I climbed. Below, I heard Kyson's voice carrying through an open window. "All the account numbers, everything you need." I reached the roof, staying low. A skylight offered a perfect view of the office. Mom sat rigid in her chair, while a man in an expensive suit paced behind her. Kyson stood by the door, hands raised. 2 more suits blocked the exit. "Where's the laptop?" suit guy demanded. "Georgia's bringing it. 10 minutes. "You said that 20 minutes ago." He pulled out a gun, pressing it to Mom's head. "Maybe we need to motivate her." "Wait." Kyson stepped forward. "Check your phone." Everyone's phones buzzed simultaneously, mine too. A news alert. "Breaking. Major banking scandal uncovered at Meridian Trust." "What did you do?" Suit guy grabbed Kyson's collar. "Insurance policy." Kyson smiled through bloody teeth. "Every news outlet in the state just got proof of your operation. Kill us, and it all goes public." I used their distraction to slip through the skylight, landing silently on a filing cabinet. Mom saw me, but didn't react. "You're bluffing," suit guy snarled. "Check your stocks," Kyson said. More phones buzzed. Someone cursed. "We're down 12 points already," one suit said. "Sir, we need to contain this." "Contain this," I said, dropping onto suit guy's shoulders. The gun went flying as we crashed to the floor. Kyson tackled the nearest guard. Mom, somehow free of her restraints, slammed her chair into the other one. "Georgia, catch!" Mom threw me a keyring. "Storage unit 247!" I ran, footsteps thundering behind me, downstairs, through corridors, counting numbers until I reached 247. The key worked. I yanked the door up. Inside sat my car. "Get in!" Kyson appeared, shoving me toward the driver's side. Mom jumped in back. "How? Drive!" they shouted together. I floored it, crashing through a wooden gate onto the street. The black SUV roared after us. "They never sold your car," Mom said, ducking as shots rang out. "They kept it as collateral. The laptop was a distraction." "From what?" "From what's in the trunk," Kyson said. 5 years of physical records, account numbers, transactions, names of every dirty cop and banker in their network. I swerved around a corner, tires screaming. "That's why you leaked the story? To keep them from killing us?" "Part of it." He grinned, despite his injuries. Also wanted to tank their stock before trading opened tomorrow. Cost them millions. Both of you shut up and call Marissa, Mom ordered. Tell her to meet us at the police station, the real police. How do we know who to trust? I asked, taking another sharp turn. Mom pulled out her phone. Because I've spent the last year building my own insurance policy. Friends in the FBI, SEC, everyone they couldn't buy. Just needed the evidence to make it stick. The SUV was falling behind as we hit the highway. Mom? I glanced in the rearview mirror. I'm sorry, I thought you were just enabling him. Honey, she smiled, where do you think Kyson learned to play the long game? Red and blue lights appeared ahead, but this time they were on our side. The FBI safe house looked like any other suburban home, complete with tacky garden gnomes and an overgrown lawn. Agent Danielle, who happened to be my boss at the environmental agency, sat across from us in the living room, spreading photos across the coffee table. You've been undercover this whole time? I asked, still processing the revelation. 3 years, she nodded. We knew Meridian Trust was dirty, but couldn't prove it. Your mother changed everything. Mom squeezed my hand. I noticed the discrepancies in international transfers last year. When I tried reporting it internally, they showed me photos of Kyson gambling at their private club. They'd been grooming me, Kyson said, holding an ice pack to his face. Getting me in debt, then offering ways to work it off. I thought I was protecting Mom by playing along. And I thought I was protecting both of you by staying quiet, Mom added. Agent Danielle laid out more photos. The operation goes deeper than banking. They've been using storage facilities to move more than money. Drugs? I asked. Sometimes, but mainly classified technology, corporate secrets, things worth more than cash. She pointed to a familiar face in one photo. That's why Sergio was on their payroll. He kept local police away from their storage units. My phone buzzed. Another news alert. Meridian Trust CEO found dead in apparent suicide. It's starting, Danielle said grimly. The rats are jumping ship. What about the other cops? Kyson asked. The ones still out there? We're rounding them up now, but some will slip through the cracks. She looked at each of us. That's why you're here. Until we've contained the situation, you're in protective custody. A knock at the door made everyone tense. An agent entered with Marissa. Your friend checks out, Danielle said. She's been helping us decrypt more files from the laptop. Marissa hugged me tight. You could have told me your boss was FBI. I didn't know. Speaking of things we didn't know, Kyson interrupted, what exactly is in my car's trunk that's so important? Mom stood up, pacing. Not just records. There's a hard drive containing every illegal transaction they've made for the past decade. Names, dates, account numbers, everything. Which makes all of you targets, Danielle added. The drive is encrypted, but they don't know that. They think you can access it. As if on cue, my phone rang. Unknown number. Put it on speaker, Danielle ordered, recording equipment ready. Hello? I answered. Quite a show today. The voice was familiar, the same distorted tone from the storage facility. But this isn't over. Seems pretty over to me. Your CEO just took the coward's way out. He was weak. I'm not. A pause. The drive, Georgia. Bring it to the location I'm texting you, or start planning 3 funerals. You don't get to threaten my family anymore. No? Ask your mother about Project Lighthouse. Ask her what really happened to your father. Mom went pale. You have 1 hour. The line went dead. Mom! I turned to her. What's Project Lighthouse? What did he mean about Dad? She sank into a chair, hands shaking. Your father's car accident 10 years ago. It wasn't an accident. He was an auditor, investigating overseas accounts. He found something. Something about a secret project involving military contracts. They killed him? Kyson's voice cracked. They made it look like drunk driving. I couldn't prove anything. She looked up, eyes hard. That's why I stayed at Meridian. Gathering evidence, waiting for a chance to bring them down. The drive, Danielle said urgently. Where is it? Safe, Mom replied. But they're right. This isn't over. The CEO was just a figurehead. The real power is someone else. Someone who's been watching us all along. My phone buzzed with an address. The lighthouse at Porter's Point. It's a trap, Marissa said. Obviously, I agreed. But it's also our chance to end this. No, Danielle stood. You're staying here. We'll handle it. Like you handled my father's case? Mom challenged. No offense, but we've gotten further in 3 days than the FBI did in 3 years. Because they weren't expecting it from us, Kyson added. We're their blind spot. I looked at the address again. The lighthouse closes to tourists at sunset. That's in 2 hours. You can't seriously be considering this, Marissa protested. But I saw the look in Mom's eyes, saw Kyson straightening despite his injuries. This was our fight. We're going, I said, but we're doing it our way. Danielle studied us for a long moment. You realize you're talking about using yourselves as bait? No, Mom said, pulling out her phone. We're talking about finishing what my husband started. She showed us a photo. Dad at the same lighthouse 10 years ago, the day before he died. Project Lighthouse wasn't just a code name, she said. It was literal. Whatever they're hiding, whatever got my husband killed, it's there. Then let's go get it, I said, grabbing my car keys. Sometimes the only way to escape a trap is to spring it yourself. The lighthouse stood like a bone-white finger against the darkening sky. Waves crashed against the rocky shore below as we parked in the empty lot. Last chance to back out, I said, checking my phone's signal. 1 bar. They killed Dad here, Kyson replied, his face grim. We finish this here. Mom touched the silver locket at her neck, the one containing Dad's photo. Remember the plan. No heroes. We'd left Marissa back at the safe house with Danielle, coordinating with FBI teams. They were positioned out of sight, waiting for our signal. The hard drive was secure in a safety deposit box across town, our insurance policy. The lighthouse door creaked open at our approach. After you, a voice called from inside. Mom squeezed my hand, then stepped through. Kyson and I followed. The interior was dim, lit only by emergency lights. A man in an expensive suit stood at the base of the spiral staircase. Even in the poor light, I recognized him from Mom's old company photos. Marcus, she said coldly. Board chairman himself. I'm honored. Helen? He smiled without warmth. Your husband had that same sarcastic tone, right before his accident. Kyson lunged forward, but I grabbed his arm. The drive, Marcus said. Where is it? Safe, I answered. Like we are, with FBI teams surrounding this place. He laughed. You mean the teams at the South Dock? And the roadblock on Harbor Street? Already taken care of. He pulled out his phone, showing live footage of unconscious agents. Amazing how many people still accept cash bribes. Mom stepped forward. This was never about money laundering, was it? Project Lighthouse. It's something worse. Smart woman. Too smart. He gestured to the stairs. Shall we? The view from the top is spectacular. We climbed in silence, Marcus behind us with his hand in his jacket pocket, obviously holding a gun. 5 stories up, the lighthouse opened into a circular room with windows facing the ocean. 10 years ago, Marcus said, your husband stood in this exact spot. He'd discovered our little side operation, weapons testing, biological agents, things the military wouldn't officially approve. The storage facilities, I realized. They weren't just for money. International buyers pay well for advanced weapons. The banking network just makes it look legitimate. He pulled out his gun, confirming our suspicions. Helen, show them. Mom walked to a section of wall, pressing a hidden panel. A door slid open, revealing a modern elevator. Dad found this, Kyson whispered. Anne died for it, Marcus confirmed. The lighthouse is just a cover. The real facility is below sea level. My phone buzzed, the signal we'd been waiting for. You won't get away with this, I said, playing for time. The evidence is worthless without the encryption key. He smiled again. Which your mother has memorized. Don't you, Helen? Mom's hand went to her locket. I don't know what you're talking about. No. Your husband's last words were about a silver key. Took us years to realize he meant the key was in the silver. He pointed the gun at me. Open the locket, Helen. She unclasped it slowly, hands shaking. Inside, behind Dad's photo, was a tiny microchip. The key, Marcus said softly, all this time right around your neck. Hand it over. Mom, don't. The gun swung toward me. The chip, or I redecorate this lighthouse with your daughter's blood. Mom stepped toward him, locket extended. But as Marcus reached for it, she threw it, not to him, but out the window. No! He rushed to the window. That's when Kyson tackled him. The gun went flying as they crashed into the wall. I dove for the weapon, but Marcus kicked it away, sending it skittering toward the elevator. You idiots! He snarled, throwing Kyson off. That chip was worth millions! It was worth nothing, Mom said, helping Kyson up, just like your security footage of the FBI teams. Marcus went still. What? Did you really think we'd come alone? I smiled. Check your phone again. He pulled it out. The footage was gone, replaced by a text. Signal traced. Move in. Helicopter spotlights suddenly flooded the lighthouse windows. Boots thundered on the stairs below. You played us, Marcus realized. No, Mom said. We played you like you played us for 10 years. That chip? A fake. The real one was delivered to the FBI an hour ago. Along with everything from the hard drive, Kyson added. While you were watching the FBI teams you thought you'd bought, the real raid was happening at all your storage facilities. Marcus lunged for the elevator, but I was closer. I grabbed the gun from the floor and pointed it at him. Don't, I said. Dad deserves better than having more blood spilled here. The door burst open. Real FBI agents swarmed in, led by Danielle. As they cuffed Marcus, Mom hugged us both. Your father would be so proud. Helen, Marcus called as they led him away. There are others, people you don't know about. This isn't over. No, she agreed, taking our hands. But whatever comes next, we face it together. Through the lighthouse windows, red and blue lights reflected off the waves like fireworks. The dark waters that had hidden so many secrets were finally giving them up. Sometimes justice takes a decade. Sometimes it takes a family willing to risk everything. And sometimes it takes both. The FBI's evidence room buzzed with activity as agents cataloged everything seized from the lighthouse facility. Weapons prototypes, biological samples, and enough documents to fill a library, all hidden beneath that innocent white tower. You need to see this, Danielle said, leading us to a computer terminal. We found it in Marcus's private server. The screen showed security footage from 10 years ago. My hand found Mom's as we watched Dad walk into the lighthouse, briefcase in hand. You don't have to watch, Kyson said softly. Yes, we do. The footage showed Dad discovering the hidden elevator, confronting Marcus. There was no audio, but we could see them arguing. Then Dad reached for his phone, probably trying to call for help, and Mom turned away. I couldn't blame her. There's more, Danielle said gently. Earlier footage shows your father meeting with someone else, someone who warned him about Project Lighthouse. She fast-forwarded to a different day. Dad sat in a cafe with a woman I recognized from recent news coverage, the FBI director who'd just announced her sudden retirement. The corruption went all the way to the top, Kyson realized. Goes, a voice corrected. We turned to see Marcus, handcuffed and flanked by guards. Present tense. You really think I'm the only one? You're done talking, Danielle snapped, but he continued. Helen, tell them about the other projects, the ones your husband never found. Mom's face hardened. Whatever game you're playing. Ring, ring, he sang, and every phone in the evidence room started ringing simultaneously. Danielle grabbed her phone. How? The lights went out. Emergency generators kicked in as agents scrambled for weapons. Through the chaos, I saw Marcus's guards crumple to the ground. Gas! Someone shouted. Everyone out! But the doors wouldn't open. Mom! I called through the thickening air. Kyson? Here! They grabbed my arms, pulling me toward the emergency exit. Marcus's laughter echoed through the room. Did you think I didn't have a contingency plan? That they'd let me rot in prison? Armed figures in gas masks burst through the vents. Gunfire erupted. This way! Danielle shoved us behind a filing cabinet. pulling out spare masks from my emergency kit. "Put these on!" Through the mask's foggy visor, I watched the intruders grab hard drives and weapons from the evidence lockers. "They're destroying the evidence," Mom said, her voice muffled. "Everything we fought for." "Not everything." Kaisen pulled out his phone, which was still recording. "Live streaming to every news outlet in the country. Say hi to America, Marcus." The masked figures turned toward us. Marcus's voice rang out. "Kill them!" Danielle returned fire as we ran for the ventilation shaft. Bullets pinged off metal around us. "Up," she commanded, giving me a boost. "The shaft leads to the parking garage." I crawled through the tight space, hearing Mom and Kaisen behind me. The sound of gunfire grew distant. "Danielle!" I called back. "Keep going," she shouted. "I'll hold them." Her words cut off in a burst of gunfire. "No!" Mom tried to turn back, but Kaisen pushed her forward. "She gave us a chance. Don't waste it." We emerged in the parking garage, alarms blaring throughout the building. My car was just 20 feet away. "Georgia, catch!" I turned to see Danielle, wounded but alive, toss something from the vent. A flash drive. "Insurance policy!" she yelled. "Now run!" We sprinted for the car as more masked figures appeared. I fumbled with the keys as bullets shattered windows around us. "Drive!" Mom and Kaisen dove in as I started the engine. We crashed through the parking gate, tires squealing. In the rearview mirror, I saw the FBI building burning. "The drive!" Mom gasped. "What's on it?" Kaisen plugged it into his phone. His eyes widened. Names, dates, every corrupt official involved in Project Lighthouse and beyond, including the FBI director, I finished. That's why she retired suddenly. She knew this was coming. "Marcus was just a middleman," Mom said. "The real power players are still out there." "Not for long." Kaisen's thumbs flew over his phone. "Uploading everything to social media now. Let's see them try to bury this." My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Marissa. "Turn on the news," she shouted. "It's everywhere. The FBI raid, the shootout, everything. They can't cover it up this time." Mom touched Dad's locket, which still hung around her neck. "He'd be proud of us." "It's not over," I said, taking the highway ramp. "They'll come after us again." "Let them," Kaisen replied, showing us his phone screen filled with viral news alerts. "The whole world is watching now." Red and blue lights appeared behind us, but this time we couldn't tell if they were friend or foe. "Where to?" I asked, gripping the steering wheel. Mom's voice was steel. "Somewhere we can finish what your father started, once and for all." The city lights faded behind us as we drove into the darkness, carrying truth like a torch and justice like a sword. The real war was just beginning. The morning sun painted the courthouse steps golden as we watched the FBI director being led away in handcuffs. News cameras flashed like lightning, capturing the moment justice finally won. "That's the last one," Danielle said, her arm still in a sling from the evidence room shootout. "Every name on that drive, every person involved in Project Lighthouse, all facing charges." My phone buzzed with another news alert. "Breaking, international weapons ring. Dismantled, high-level officials implicated." "They're calling it the biggest corruption scandal in history," Kaisen said, scrolling through updates. "Dad's name is everywhere. They're hailing him as the whistleblower who started it all." Mom squeezed my hand. "He gave his life to expose this. We finished what he started." "Ms. Simmons," reporters called out, "how does it feel knowing your husband's murder has finally been solved?" Before Mom could answer, more police cars screamed up to the courthouse. Marcus, in orange prison clothes, emerged in chains. "Still think you've won?" he shouted across the plaza. "There will always be more of us. Always be more secrets." "You're right," I called back, making him stop. "There probably are more secrets, more corruption, more people like you. Then you understand. You can't win." "No," Mom stepped forward. "We already have, because now everyone knows the truth is out there. Everyone knows there are people willing to fight for it." "And next time," Kaisen added, "we'll be ready." Marcus's face contorted as officers led him away. His empire had crumbled, his powerful friends were falling one by one, and the lighthouse that had hidden his secrets now stood as a monument to truth. Danielle's phone chirped. "The task force is ready," she said. "You sure about this?" I looked at Mom and Kaisen. They nodded. We're sure. Inside the courthouse, we found Marissa waiting with a stack of papers. Everything's set, she said. The whistleblower protection program, the new identities, just say the word. No, I replied. We're not hiding. But they still have allies out there, she protested. People who might want revenge. Let them come, Mom said, taking off Dad's locket. We're done living in shadows. She walked to the clerk's desk and placed the locket in an evidence bag. This belongs in the case file. Let everyone see what my husband died protecting. Besides, Kyson grinned, someone has to stick around to keep fighting. Dad taught us that. Danielle handed us each an FBI consultant badge. Then let's make it official. The task force needs people who know what to look for, people who've seen the corruption firsthand. You want us to help investigate other potential projects? I asked. Who better? You three did what an entire federal agency couldn't. Imagine what you could do with actual resources. Mom traced Dad's name on the courthouse wall of honor, newly installed that morning. What do you think, honey? Ready to be a family of investigators? As long as we're together, I said. That's what got us through this. Speaking of together, Kyson pulled out his phone. The support group for families affected by corruption is meeting tonight. They asked if we'd share our story. Our story, Mom repeated softly. Not just about corruption and revenge, but about healing, about finding strength in each other. The courthouse doors opened. Outside, the media waited for statements, for answers, for hope that justice was still possible in a world of shadows. Ready? I asked my family. Ready, they answered. We stepped into the sunlight together, not as victims or vigilantes, but as survivors, as proof that truth could outshine any darkness. My car, the same one that started this whole journey, sat waiting in the parking lot, no longer a symbol of betrayal, but of perseverance. Where to first? Kyson asked as we got in. There's a suspicious banking pattern in Seattle, Danielle said from the back seat. Might be nothing, might be another project. Or, Mom smiled, it might be another chance to make Dad proud. I started the engine, remembering that first morning when I found my car missing. How lost and angry I'd felt. How alone. Never again. Seattle it is, I said, pulling onto the street. But first, breakfast. I'm thinking pancakes. Pancakes? Kyson laughed. We're about to investigate potential international corruption and you want pancakes? Hey, even justice fighters need fuel. Mom's hand found my shoulder. Pancakes sound perfect, honey. Your father always said the best plans start with a good breakfast. As we drove toward our favorite diner, I caught sight of the lighthouse in my rearview mirror. It no longer looked ominous. Just a tower of white stone, its secrets exposed to the light. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold, but they're wrong. The best revenge is served with family, with purpose, and yes, with pancakes. Because in the end, it's not about getting even, it's about getting better, together. The day my mother stole my future started like any other Thursday, except this time I caught her red-handed with my bank statement spread across the kitchen counter. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching her perfectly manicured fingers trace the numbers that represented 4 years of my hard work and savings. My name is Isabella, and I'd spent my entire life trying to earn my mother's approval. But standing there, seeing her scrutinize my personal finances without permission, I finally understood that nothing would ever be enough. Isabella, darling, I didn't hear you come in, she said, not even bothering to hide the papers. We need to discuss something important. I gripped the doorframe harder. Those are my private statements, Mom. Private? She laughed that airy laugh she reserved for when she thought someone was being ridiculous. Sweetheart, I'm your mother. Nothing is private from me. What did you do? My voice came out barely above a whisper. She straightened up, smoothing her designer blouse. Your brother's wedding is coming up, and as you know, these things are expensive. Donovan deserves the absolute best. My stomach dropped. You didn't. The venue alone costs... That's my college fund. I stepped into the kitchen, hands shaking. I've been saving since high school. Every extra shift, every bonus, every birthday check. And it's being put to good use, she cut in. Your brother is marrying into the Addams family. This wedding needs to be perfect. I grabbed the statements off the counter. The transfer had already gone through. Nearly everything I'd saved, gone. You had no right. I had every right. I'm still listed on that account from when you were a minor. She reached for her wine glass, taking a casual sip. Besides, you can always take out student loans like everyone else. Donovan's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. The familiar sting of being second best burned in my chest. And my education isn't important? Of course it is, darling. But you've always been the practical one. Donovan needs this connection with the Addams family. Their influence could really launch his career. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from Donovan himself. Need to talk. Meet at Sterling's in 20? I have to go, I said, already backing away. Isabella, don't be dramatic about this. Everything I do is for this family. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I'd either scream or cry, and I refused to give her the satisfaction of either. 20 minutes later, I burst into Sterling's apartment where my brother was already waiting. One look at my face and Sterling, my best friend since middle school, wordlessly handed me a glass of wine. She did it, didn't she? Donovan asked, his face grim. I nodded, downing half the glass in one go. Every penny, Don, for your perfect wedding to your perfect bride. Sterling settled onto the couch beside me. That's literally theft. We could report her. She's still on the account, I said bitterly. Legally, she had every right. Donovan stood up, pacing the room. This ends now. I can't watch her destroy your life like she tried to destroy mine. I looked up at him, surprised by the steel in his voice. My brother had always been Mom's golden child, the one who could do no wrong. But something in his expression had changed. What do you mean? I asked. He stopped pacing and turned to face me. You remember 2 years ago when I wanted to start my own business instead of joining Dad's firm? And suddenly you changed your mind? The pieces started clicking together. She threatened you, didn't she? Threatened, manipulated, blackmailed, take your pick. He sat down across from me. But this wedding, it's not what she thinks it is. And if you're willing to help me, we can turn her perfect plan into our escape route. Sterling leaned forward, intrigued. What exactly are you suggesting? A slow smile spread across Donovan's face, the kind of smile I hadn't seen since we were kids plotting to steal cookies from the kitchen. How would you like your money back, Bella? With interest? I set down my wine glass, meeting his gaze. I'm listening. Mom thinks she's orchestrating the society wedding of the year, he said. But what if we give her a ceremony she'll never forget? One that finally shows her exactly what happens when you push your children too far. For the first time since finding those bank statements, I felt a spark of hope. Tell me everything. Remember when we used to hide in the treehouse? Donovan asked, refilling my wine glass. We'd moved to Sterling's balcony, the city lights twinkling below us like fallen stars. Every time Mom had one of her society parties? Our secret rebellion headquarters, I smiled, the memory warming me more than the wine. Where we'd eat contraband candy and plot our great escape. Well, baby sister, it's time for the great escape to finally happen. Sterling returned from the kitchen with a fresh bottle. Okay, you two have been cryptic long enough. What's this master plan? Donovan leaned forward, lowering his voice despite us being alone. Remington isn't really my fiancé. What? I nearly choked on my wine. She's my business partner. We've been building a tech startup in secret for the past year. He pulled out his phone, showing us a sleek website. Mom thinks Rem is just the perfect society bride, daughter of her country club friends. She has no idea Rem's trust fund went into developing our app. Sterling whistled. That's actually brilliant. But the wedding? I asked. All my money? Is going straight back to you, Donovan assured me. Plus a share in our company. Rem and I needed one big investment to launch and, well, he shrugged. Mom volunteered without knowing it. I stood up, pacing the balcony. She'll never forgive us. That's kind of the point, Bella. Donovan caught my arm, stopping me. Look at me. When was the last time you did something without wondering if Mom would approve? The question hit hard. I thought about every career choice, every relationship, every outfit I'd second-guessed because of her potential reaction. Exactly, he said, reading my expression. She's controlled us our whole lives. But here's the thing. I'm not actually getting married. What do you mean? Sterling sat up straighter. Oh my God, you're going to leave her at the altar? Better. Donovan's eyes sparkled with mischief. We're going to give her exactly what she wants. A society wedding that everyone will talk about for years. Just not the way she expects. Don't keep us in suspense, Sterling prodded. Rem's not walking down that aisle, Donovan said. You are, Bella. The wine glass nearly slipped from my hand. What? Think about it. Mom's spent months planning this elaborate wedding, inviting everyone who's anyone, making sure all eyes will be on our family. So let's give them something to see. You want me to marry you? I couldn't help laughing. That's insane. Not marry me, obviously, but imagine Mom's face when her perfect society wedding turns into her children publicly exposing her manipulation. We'll have a captive audience of all her peers. Sterling jumped in. My brother Grayson works in events. He could help coordinate everything behind the scenes. I sat back down, mind racing. But what about Rem? Won't this hurt her reputation? Already handled, Donovan assured me. She'll be called away on urgent business the week before. Mom will be too invested in the wedding to cancel. Then, at the ceremony, I show up instead of Rem, I finished, the plan taking shape in my mind. With documented proof of every manipulation, every threat, every stolen dollar, Donovan added. Projected on screens for all her society friends to see. Sterling was already typing on his phone. Grayson can handle the technical side. He's been wanting to get back at your mom since she got him blacklisted from planning country club events. I took a deep breath, memories flooding back. Mom missing my graduation because Donovan had a golf tournament. Her forgetting to submit my art school applications. The constant comparisons and subtle put-downs. You know what this means, right? I asked Donovan. If we do this, there's no going back. No more family holidays, no inheritance, no more walking on eggshells, he interrupted. No more living our lives according to her script. He took my hands in his. Remember what we used to say in the treehouse? Marshall kids against the world, I whispered our old motto. Damn right. He squeezed my hands. So what do you say, Bella? Ready to crash a wedding? I looked at Sterling, who gave me an encouraging nod, then back at my brother. In that moment, I felt like that little girl in the treehouse again, dreaming of freedom. Let's do it, I said, raising my glass. To the great escape. We clinked glasses as the city lights twinkled below, conspirators in the night plotting a revolution that would start with a wedding march. You're absolutely sure about this? Remington asked, adjusting her fake engagement ring under the cafe's patio umbrella. We'd chosen this spot carefully, far enough from Mom's usual haunts, but public enough to avoid suspicion if anyone saw us together. For the 10th time, yes, I assured her. But are you? Your reputation? We'll be fine, she cut in, stirring her latte. The tech world loves a good scandal, and our app launches the week after the wedding. Perfect timing for maximum publicity. Sterling arrived with Grayson in tow, laptop bag slung over his shoulder. Ladies, your technical wizard has arrived. Keep it down, I hissed, though I couldn't help smiling. Grayson had the same dramatic flair as his sister. He pulled out his laptop, showing us a detailed timeline. Okay, so I've got everything mapped out. The wedding's in 3 weeks. Rem, you'll need to leave town next Thursday. Already booked my flight to Silicon Valley, she nodded. Very public, very traceable. Perfect. That gives Marin 9 days to panic, but not enough time to cancel without losing all the deposits. Grayson clicked through his presentation. I've arranged for the venue's AV system to be upgraded the day before. They think it's a complimentary service. Sterling leaned over his shoulder. What about the guests? All 300 of them, I groaned. Mom made sure to invite everyone who's ever meant anything in this city. That works in our favor, Remington pointed out. More witnesses means more pressure on her to maintain her composure. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Dress fitting at 3. Don't be late this time. Speaking of composure, I sighed, showing them the message. I have to go play supportive sister for the afternoon. Actually, this is perfect timing, Grayson said. I need you to plant this in your mom's office while you're there. He handed me what looked like a normal USB drive. "It'll give me remote access to her computer." I stared at it. "You want me to hack my mother?" "We need proof of the money transfers," Remington said gently, "and any other dirt we can find. The more evidence we have, the less she can deny." "Plus," Sterling added, "we need to make sure she hasn't found anything suspicious on her own." The USB felt heavy in my hand. "What if she catches me?" "Tell her you're backing up wedding photos," Grayson suggested. "She'll eat that up, the devoted sister helping with precious memories." 2 hours later, I was standing in Mom's home office, heart pounding as I plugged in the drive. The dress fitting had gone exactly as expected. Mom fawning over Remington while passive-aggressively suggesting I do something about my figure before the wedding photos. "Isabella?" Mom's voice called from downstairs. "Where did you disappear to?" "Just getting some water," I called back, watching the USB light blink. Grayson had said it would only take 30 seconds, but each one felt like an hour. "Well, hurry down. Remington's mother is bringing over fabric samples for the table settings." The light turned solid green. I pulled out the drive just as Mom appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing in here?" I held up my phone. "Sorry, needed to charge it. All that photo taking drained my battery." She softened slightly. "You did take some lovely pictures today. It's nice to see you finally taking an interest in your brother's happiness." I swallowed the bitter retort that rose in my throat. 3 more weeks. Just 3 more weeks of playing the dutiful daughter. That evening, I met the others at Sterling's apartment again. Grayson was already deep in Mom's files. "Found it," he announced as I walked in. "Full documentation of the transfer from your account, plus emails to the bank authorizing it without your knowledge." "That's illegal, right?" Sterling asked. "Technically, she had account access," Remington said. "But the emails prove premeditation. She knew exactly what she was doing." "There's more," Grayson added, still scrolling. "Emails to Donovan's old business partners, threatening to pull strings if they worked with him. Letters to art schools withdrawing Isabella's applications. Even a blacklist she maintains for the country club." I sank onto the couch, the weight of years of manipulation hitting me all at once. She really did control everything. "Not anymore," Sterling squeezed my shoulder. "In 3 weeks, everyone sees the real Marin." My phone buzzed again, another text from Mom. "Don't forget, bridal brunch tomorrow. Wear the blue dress I bought you. The green one makes you look sallow." I showed it to the others, managing a weak smile. The countdown begins. "To the mother of all wedding crashes." Grayson raised his glass. We all clinked glasses, but my hand was shaking slightly. The plan was in motion. There was no turning back now. "She's called 6 times in the last hour," I told Donovan, watching my phone buzz for the 7th time. We were huddled in his apartment, going over final details while Mom melted down over Remington's sudden business emergency. "Let it ring," he said, sorting through documents we'd pulled from Mom's computer. "The more desperate she gets, the less likely she is to cancel." "You don't think she'll just find you another society bride?" "In 9 days?" He laughed. "Even Mom's networking skills have limits." My phone started ringing again. This time, it was Remington. "You need to hear this," she said when I answered, putting the call on speaker. "Your mom just offered to buy my company to keep me in town for the wedding." Donovan nearly choked on his coffee. "She what?" "Offered 7 figures, sight unseen. I almost feel bad turning her down." "Almost." "She's really losing it," I marveled. "Did she say anything about me?" "Oh yeah," Remington's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Apparently you're inconsolable about missing your brother's special day. She's telling everyone you've taken to your bed with grief." Sterling, who'd been quietly working on her laptop, snorted. "That explains the sympathy texts I've been getting. Half our high school class thinks you're having a breakdown." "Perfect," Donovan said. "The more dramatic she makes this, the better our reveal will be." My phone buzzed yet again, Mom calling for the 8th time. With a deep breath, I finally answered. "Darling, where have you been?" Her voice was frantic. "We have a crisis." "I heard." I tried to sound appropriately devastated. "Poor Rem, having to leave so suddenly." "This is a disaster. The Addams family connection was everything." But don't worry, I have a plan. I've called every eligible family in our circle. Mom, Donovan cut in, having moved closer to the phone. Stop. The wedding is happening as scheduled. But darling, without a bride. I said it's happening. Trust me. There was a long pause. When Mom spoke again, her voice had that dangerous sweetness I knew too well. Donovan, dear, I know you're upset, but we have to be realistic. The guests, the vendors, the press release I've already sent out. Mom, I jumped in, following our script. What if I helped? I could stand in for Rem, just for the ceremony photos. We look similar enough from a distance. The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear her mind racing, calculating angles and appearances. That's actually quite clever, she said slowly. Yes, that could work. We'd need to alter the dress, of course. And you'll have to do something about your hair. Whatever you think is best, Mom, I said, catching Donovan's approving nod. Come over right now. We need to start preparations immediately. And Isabella? Wear the blue dress, the green one. Makes me look sallow. I know. After hanging up, I let out a shaky breath. Sterling immediately handed me a glass of wine. She bought it, Donovan said, sounding almost surprised. Hook, line, and sinker. Of course she did, Sterling said. You know your mom. She'd rather have a fake wedding than no wedding at all. Grayson arrived an hour later with updated plans. Okay, venues confirmed we can access the AV system the night before. I've edited the footage, emails, bank statements, everything set to music. Very dramatic. What about the guests? I asked. Already handled, Sterling said. I've been seeding rumors about a special surprise at the ceremony. Everyone's intrigued. My phone chimed with a text from Mom. Ordered rush alterations for the dress. Be at the boutique tomorrow at 9 a.m. sharp. No excuses. Here we go, I showed them the message. Countdown to transformation. You know she's going to be impossible for the next week, Donovan warned. When isn't she? I grabbed my purse, preparing to head to Mom's house. But this time, every criticism, every passive-aggressive comment, every manipulation is just more fuel for the fire. That's my girl. Sterling hugged me goodbye. Remember, you're not just playing along anymore. You're gathering ammunition. As I headed out, Donovan caught my arm. Bella, wait. Are you sure you're ready for this? Once we start the dress fittings, there's no backing out. I thought about my empty bank account, about years of being second best, about all the dreams I'd given up to keep the peace. I've been ready my whole life, I said. It's time Mom learned what happens when you push your children too far. Marshall kids against the world, he offered our old motto. Against the world, I agreed, stepping out into the evening, ready to begin the final act of our longest-running rebellion. The wedding dress felt like armor as I stood in front of the boutique's three-way mirror. Mom circled me like a hawk, pinching fabric and muttering about emergency alterations. Stand straighter, she commanded, tugging at the bodice. Really, Isabella, if you'd maintained your high school figure, we wouldn't be rushing these adjustments. The seamstress, pinning the hem, shot me a sympathetic look. The dress is gorgeous on her, Mrs. Marshall. Your daughter looks like a princess. She's not the bride, Mom snapped. She's just standing in for photos. But yes, we need her to look adequate. My phone buzzed on the nearby chair. A message from Grayson. AV system hacked. All set for tomorrow. Who keeps texting you? Mom demanded. This is important, Isabella. Focus. Just Sterling, asking about makeup tomorrow. I lied smoothly. She's still doing my hair, right? Mom's lips tightened. I suppose, though I still think we should have hired professionals. Another text came through, this time from Donovan. Mom's credit card records came through. Wait till you see what she spent your money on. Isabella, phone away, I complied, but not before sending a quick to both messages. The seamstress continued working, and I caught fragments of Mom's running commentary. Thank goodness you and Remington are similar heights. Have to do something about that birthmark on your shoulder. Maybe we can Photoshop it later. The boutique door chimed, and Sterling breezed in with a garment bag. Emergency veil delivery. Oh, thank God! Mom rushed over. Please tell me it's the right shade of ivory. While Mom fussed over the veil with the boutique owner, Sterling sidled up to me. How you holding up? Ready for this to be over, I whispered. Did you see what Donovan found? Girl, you're going to flip. She spent part of your money on a spa retreat for herself. Called it wedding stress relief. The seamstress finished pinning the last section. All done, honey? You can change now. In the dressing room, I carefully hung up the dress, my hands shaking slightly. One more day, just one more day of playing along. Isabella? Mom called through the door. Hurry up. We still need to check the table settings and confirm the flowers. Coming! I changed quickly, emerging to find Mom already on her phone. No, absolutely not, she was saying. I ordered peonies, not garden roses. This is unacceptable. Do you know who I am? Do you know how much we're spending? Sterling rolled her eyes behind Mom's back, making me stifle a laugh. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of last-minute details. Mom micromanaged everything, from the exact shade of the napkins to the precise timing of the dove release. Now remember, she instructed as we finally headed to our cars. Rehearsal dinner at 7. Wear the blue dress. Not the green one, Sterling and I finished in unison. Mom's eyes narrowed. This isn't funny. Tomorrow has to be perfect. The Addams family may have lost their bride, but we still have appearances to maintain. As soon as Mom drove away, I slumped against my car. I can't believe we're actually doing this. Having second thoughts? No, I straightened up. Just first-time jitters about publicly humiliating my mother. My phone rang. Donovan this time. You need to get to Grayson's now, he said when I answered. Wait till you see what we found in Mom's emails. 20 minutes later, I sat in Grayson's home office, staring at his computer screen in disbelief. She did what? I whispered. Contacted every art school you applied to, Donovan confirmed. Told them you had a history of plagiarism, that accepting you would be a liability. Grayson pulled up more emails. She also threatened to pull country club memberships from anyone who hired you for graphic design work. That's why I couldn't get any local clients, I realized, years of rejection suddenly making sense. It gets better, Remington chimed in from the video call on Grayson's second screen. She's been paying people to report my company's social media accounts as scams, trying to tank us before we launch. Tomorrow can't come soon enough, I said, anger burning away any remaining doubts. My phone lit up with another text from Mom. Don't be late to rehearsal, and please do something with your hair. We can't have you looking like a charity case in front of everyone. I showed the others the message, then deleted it with a decisive tap. You know what? I said, standing up. I think I'll wear the green dress tonight. Sterling grinned. That's my girl. One last act of rebellion before the grand finale. Mom wants perfect? I grabbed my keys. Let's show her what perfect really looks like. 5 minutes until showtime, Sterling whispered, adjusting my veil in the bridal suite. How are you feeling? Like I'm about to throw up or pass out. Maybe both. Well, don't. This dress was expensive. She stepped back, admiring her handiwork. You look incredible, by the way. Mom's going to lose it when she sees you. The door burst open and Mom swept in, already in full command mode. Everyone out except the bride. I mean, Isabella and Sterling. She waited until the bridesmaids filed out before turning to me. Well, at least you didn't ruin your hair this time. Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. She missed the sarcasm, too busy checking her phone. The photographer's ready. Donovan's in position. The Addams family sent a message expressing their disappointment, but they're here, front row. She finally looked up. Isabella, are you listening? Every word. Good. Now remember, you're just standing in for photos. Keep your head high, smile graciously, and... A knock at the door interrupted her. Grayson poked his head in. 2-minute warning, everyone. And Mrs. Marshall, you're needed in the main hall. This better be important, Mom huffed, hurrying out. As soon as she was gone, Grayson slipped inside. Everything's set. Screens are ready. Footage is queued up. The moment you reach the altar, I hit play. My hands were shaking so badly Sterling had to help me with my bouquet. What if she tries to stop it? That's what security's for, Grayson winked. Being the venue's preferred vendor has its perks. Another knock. This time it was Donovan. Ready, sis? You clean up nice, I managed, taking in his tuxedo. Very convincing groom. Learned from the best, he grinned. Mom's got everyone seated. It's time. Sterling hugged me tight. Go get 'em, Tiger. The wedding march began as I took my place behind the closed doors. Through the wood, I could hear the murmur of 300 guests, all of Mom's carefully cultivated social circle gathered to witness her perfect society wedding. Last chance to back out, Donovan whispered, offering his arm. I took it, squeezing perhaps a bit too tight. Not a chance. The doors swung open, the music swelled, and there, at the end of the aisle, I saw Mom's face transform from proud satisfaction to absolute horror as she realized who was walking down the aisle. Whispers rippled through the crowd. I caught fragments as we passed. Where's Remington? Is that his sister? What's going on? Mom started to rise from her seat, but Grayson was faster. The screens around the venue flickered to life, displaying the first email. RE, withdrawal of Isabella Marshall's art school applications. More emails followed, each one larger than the last. Bank statements, text messages, every piece of evidence we'd gathered projected for all to see. We reached the altar just as Mom's voice filled the room through the speakers. Of course I took her college fund. Donovan's wedding is more important than her little art hobby. The crowd's whispers turned to gasps. I turned to face them, Donovan at my side, as years of manipulation played out on the screens. Stop this immediately! Mom stood up, her face scarlet. This is ridiculous! Is it, Mom? I spoke into the microphone we'd hidden in my bouquet, my voice carrying through the sound system. More ridiculous than sabotaging your daughter's career? Than stealing her future? Everything I did was for this family. No, Donovan took the mic. Everything you did was for your reputation, your status, your control. The screens showed the final piece. Mom's frantic emails from the past week, offering to buy Remington's company, threatening to destroy her reputation, all to save face at this wedding. You're ruining everything, Mom hissed, advancing toward the altar. 2 security guards smoothly stepped into her path. Actually, Mom, I said, you did that yourself. Every manipulation, every lie, every time you chose your social standing over your children's happiness. It all led to this moment. And now, Donovan added, everyone knows exactly who you are. The crowd was dead silent, hundreds of eyes fixed on Mom as she stood there, trapped between the security guards and the weight of her exposed secrets. This wedding is over, she announced, trying to salvage some dignity. Everyone leave. Oh no, I smiled, channeling her own sweet venom. The party's just getting started. After all, you spent my entire college fund on it. Might as well enjoy it. As if on cue, the band started playing, and Sterling appeared with champagne. The stunned silence broke into nervous laughter, then genuine amusement as guests realized they were witnessing not just a wedding, but a revolution. Mom fled the hall, her perfectly curated world crumbling behind her, and for the first time in my life, I stood tall, no longer in anyone's shadow. Mom was waiting in the bridal suite when I went to change, her perfect posture a stark contrast to the chaos we'd just unleashed. She sat in the vintage armchair like it was a throne, her face a mask of cold fury. Well, she said as I closed the door, I hope you're satisfied with yourself. Actually, I am. I started removing the veil, letting it fall to the floor. For the first time in my life, I did exactly what I wanted, instead of what you demanded. What you wanted, she stood up, voice rising. You humiliated me in front of everyone who matters in this city. Do you have any idea what you've done? Showed them the truth? The truth, she laughed bitterly. The truth is I gave you everything, both of you. Every advantage, every opportunity. Every opportunity to be exactly who you wanted us to be, I cut in. But the moment we tried to be ourselves, you sabotaged us. The door opened and Donovan walked in, followed by Sterling and Grayson. Mom's eyes narrowed at the reinforcements. So this is what it's come to? My children conspiring against me with the help? She gestured dismissively at our friends. Mom, Donovan stepped forward. The help just helped expose how you stole from your daughter and blackmailed your son. Maybe show some humility? Humility? She spat the word like poison. I built this family's reputation from nothing. Everything we have, everything you are. Is in spite of you, not because of you, I interrupted. And by the way, speaking of everything we have, I nodded to Grayson, who pulled out his phone. The bank's been notified of the fraudulent transfers, he said. They're reversing everything as we speak. Mom's face went pale. You can't do that. I had authority. Obtained through coercion, Sterling chimed in. The emails prove it. The bank's fraud department was very interested in those. And that's not all, Donovan added. The art schools you contacted? They're sending written apologies to Isabella. Turns out they don't appreciate being manipulated into rejecting qualified students. Mom sank back into the chair. This is how you repay me? After everything I've sacrificed? Sacrificed? I stepped closer. You sacrificed my dreams for your social climbing. You sacrificed Donovan's business for your country club status. The only thing you never sacrificed was your own ego. Get out. Her voice was ice. All of you. You're no children of mine. Funny, I said, reaching for the door. That's the first honest thing you've said all day. We left her there, surrounded by the wreckage of her perfect wedding. In the hall, guests were still mingling, the buzz of scandal electrifying the air. Isabella! Mrs. Adams, Remington's mother, caught my arm. That was quite a performance. I braced for condemnation, but her eyes were twinkling. Thank you for exposing Marin, she continued. She's been terrorizing the social circuit for years. No one dared stand up to her until now. Others approached, each with similar stories. Mom's victims and witnesses finally free to speak their truth. Your mother blacklisted my catering company last year. She threatened to pull donations from my charity. She spread rumors about my daughter's college admission. Sterling appeared with champagne. To the fall of the Tyrant Queen? We clinked glasses as Grayson's phone buzzed. He checked it, grinning. Bank transfers complete. Isabella, you are officially unrobbed. And that's not all, Donovan added. Rem just texted. Our app's pre-launch publicity is through the roof. Turns out a dramatic society wedding scandal is better than any marketing campaign. Speaking of publicity, Sterling nodded toward the entrance where reporters were gathering. Looks like Mom's perfect society wedding is making headlines after all. Let them come, I said, surprising myself with my steadiness. It's time everyone knew the truth. What happens now? Grayson asked. Now? I looked around at my real family, my brother who chose truth over privilege, my friends who helped orchestrate our liberation. Now we celebrate. After all, Mom did pay for an open bar. And tomorrow? Donovan asked softly. Tomorrow we start living our lives without looking over our shoulders. No more manipulation, no more control. Marshal kids against the world? He offered. No, I corrected him, including Sterling and Grayson in our circle. Family against the world, the family we chose. As we raised our glasses again, I caught a glimpse of Mom slipping out a side door, alone for perhaps the first time in her social climbing life. But I felt no guilt, no regret, only relief and the lightness of finally being free. To new beginnings, I toasted. To truth, Donovan added. To karma, Sterling laughed. And somewhere in the background, the band played on. Your work is incredible, the gallery owner said, studying my latest piece. The emotion, the rawness, it's exactly what we're looking for. I tried to keep my voice steady. So you're interested in showing it? Interested? My dear, I want to feature you as our headline artist for next month's showcase. As she outlined the details, my phone buzzed with notifications. Donovan and Remington's app had just hit 1 million downloads, making headlines in the tech world. Mom would have hated that her stolen money had funded such a successful startup. The gallery owner finished writing up the contract. Just one thing. I noticed you sign your work as Isabella rather than using your family name. The art speaks for itself, I said. It doesn't need my mother's name attached to it. She nodded approvingly. Speaking of which, that wedding video really made waves. Very brave, what you did. It wasn't brave, I corrected her. It was necessary. Leaving the gallery, I headed to Sterling's coffee shop, our new regular meeting spot since the wedding. Donovan was already there, laptop open to another glowing review of their app. "There's my famous artist sister," he called out as I approached. Says the tech mogul. I dropped into the chair beside him. Mom would be having fits if she knew how well we're doing without her influence. Actually, Sterling appeared with my usual order. "She knows. She's been following both of you online. My brother saw her at the country club yesterday, showing people articles about Donovan's app on her phone." "Seriously?" I nearly spilled my coffee. "Apparently she's telling everyone she funded your initial startup," Donovan laughed. "Technically true, I suppose." "Classic Mom," I shook my head, taking credit for the very things she tried to prevent. "Speaking of prevention," Sterling sat down with us. "Guess who just called asking about booking the coffee shop for a reconciliation brunch?" My stomach tightened. She didn't. "Oh, she did. Said she's ready to forgive us all for the wedding misunderstanding if we agree to let her back into our lives." "Wow," Donovan whistled. "Her social circle must really be crumbling if she's this desperate." "What did you tell her?" I asked Sterling. "That we're fully booked until the next century." She grinned. "Also, that forgiveness requires actual remorse, not just social convenience." My phone buzzed again, an email from one of the art schools Mom had blacklisted me from. They were offering me a guest lecturer position, impressed by my resilience and artistic growth. "You should do it," Donovan said, reading over my shoulder. "Show everyone what Mom tried to keep hidden." "Maybe I will." I forwarded the email to Grayson, who'd become our unofficial PR manager. "But first, I need your help with something." I pulled up the gallery contract on my phone. "They want an artist's statement for the showcase, something about my journey and influences." "Tell them the truth," Sterling suggested, "about breaking free and finding your voice." "Without mentioning Mom," Donovan added. "She doesn't get to be part of this story anymore." The coffee shop door chimed, and we all looked up. For a moment, I thought I saw Mom's silhouette through the window watching us. But then, it was gone, like a ghost of the control she used to have over our lives. "You know what's funny?" I said, turning back to my family, my real family. "She always said we'd fail without her connections, her influence, her money. But look at us now." "Successful?" Sterling offered. "Happy," I corrected. "We're finally happy." Donovan raised his coffee cup. "To happiness without permission. To success without manipulation," Sterling added. "To family," I finished. "The kind you choose, not the kind that chooses you." As we clinked cups, I started typing my artist's statement. Art isn't about perfection or control. It's about truth, even when that truth is messy, especially when it's messy. Because in that mess, we find our real selves, our real family, our real strength. The words flowed easily now, no longer constrained by fear of disapproval. Outside, the city moved on, full of people living their own stories of breaking free and finding truth. And somewhere out there, Mom was probably still trying to control her narrative, not realizing she'd lost the only thing that really mattered: us. But that was her story now, not ours. We had our own stories to write, our own paths to follow, our own happiness to create. And for the first time in our lives, we were doing it all without looking over our shoulders, without seeking approval, without compromising who we were. We were free, and that was the greatest success of all.